In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared, and we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
All right, what do you say?
This is Blood Politics.
We're going to hop right into it. Let's hop right into it. What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? It is Tuesday, 26 May 2026, and I do appreciate you for joining us today. Thank you very much. If you could, if you would, if you can, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Would be fantastic for you to do. It goes a long way in helping the channel. Let everybody filter in. Let's say hi to the chat today. Chat, just to let you know, today could be a shortened version of the show, could be an abridged version. I've had a splitting headache all goddamn day, and the longer I look at these screens with these lights, the worse it gets. But we do have a ton to cover. We'll get through it. I'm just saying, I don't know if I'll make it the entire 2 hours today, but what do you say we say hi to everybody? Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. Hope everybody, at least the sun was shining where you guys were at, enjoyed the festivities wherever you guys are at in the country. We appreciate everybody that has taken that oath, is currently serving this country right now, all of it. We salute you. We appreciate you. And as we said last night in the Patreon Zoom that we had, shout out to the Patreon Zoomers that were there last night. It affects the family a lot too. So a lot of the times, the family doesn't get talked about enough. It's not just a singular act. It is the entire family that has to deal with that and makes the sacrifices. So again, big salute to anybody out there that has served, will serve, is serving, knows somebody in their family, their loved ones, whatever it may be. A big salute to all you guys, and obviously to the mods here. Very much appreciate you for keeping this chat running, and the best place here on earth to be a chatter, the Blunt Politics community. What's going on? What's up, Don? How are you, brother? What's up, Mr. Foss? What's going on, Bob? What's up, Sammy? What's up, Slightly Mad Mom? How are you? What's up, Yakov? What's going on, brother? What's up, WW? Roxanne? Carolyn? What's going on, Lee? Sabrina, how are you? How's everybody else doing? What's going on, Tony? What's going on, Deb? Yeah, I appreciate you being there, Dame. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. What's going on, Chris? What's going on, Karen? I see you. What's up, Regina? It rained every day. Yeah, I know. It was shitty around here too, Regina. I got to say, you know what I mean? It was like, I said it last night too in the Zoom. It was 95 and sunny for the days leading up to, the Memorial Day festivities, the Memorial Day weekend, and then come the Memorial Day festivities, Memorial Day weekend, it was shitty. You know what I mean? It was just rainy and gloomy and obviously not as warm and as nice as it was before, but that's typically how it works, right? Especially here in the New England area. Regina, I'm not sure where you are, but I'm sure wherever you are, you're used to the rapid change in weather that we're facing nowadays. But big shout out and a salute to everybody. It was a total washout, says Chris. Oh no, that's terrible. That's terrible. I heard, even around here, a lot of the like the parades and stuff like that, a lot of them were kind of moved inside, or whatever festivities that were being had were moved inside just in case. So obviously, kind of takes a lot of the fun away, takes a lot of it away. But shout out to everybody that was out there celebrating. 95 in London, says Sammy. Good God, right? You guys must be cooking. Thank you to whoever just sent $5. Hold on, let's see here. Somebody just sent $5 on Venmo, and I want to say thank you. You guys too Bry Guy. Thank you, Bry Guy. Venmo, don't tax. Go, Bry. Appreciate that, dude. I appreciate that. And you too can contribute via Venmo just up here in the corner. You can kick in a buck or two, whatever you can find in between those cushions and the couch. Toss it in there. I don't drink coffee, but you can buy me a Powerade, Gatorade, anything to keep the channel running. We are an independent channel. We don't hide any content behind a paywall. You will never have to come out of pocket with a red goddamn cent to see any of the content. I mean, I find it ridiculous that you have something to say, some opinions, something important to cover, and you would kind of make it behind, hidden behind a paywall. I've never understood that. No ads. We spoke about this last night also on the Zoom. You won't see any ads being disrupted here. You're watching experience. So, if you have a buck or two, all I ask for is you can either kick it into the Venmo, kick it into the chat. There's a YouTube membership you can sign up for less than a gallon of gas just underneath me, or you can head over to patreon.com/BostonBrian if you want to check out the 3 fantastic tiers we have over there. Again, the backbone of the communities are the people that, help keep us running. So I appreciate you, Sammy. Appreciate you, Jeff. Appreciate you, WW. No Money G. Everybody, thank you, Yakov, once again. Good to see you last night. Yeah, your little one cracks me up. He really does crack me up. he's such a vibe. He really is. So shout out again to everybody. What are we covering today? So obviously we're going to have to be talking about the exchange of strikes last night between Iran and the U.S. and what that means for the non-existent, fake, never really in play kind of negotiations that everybody says are actually taking place. You know what I mean? So we'll see what we can get into. I got a couple clips pulled up from Jennifer Griffith from the Hormuz letter. We'll be getting into what Ghalibaf and anybody from the Iranian side is saying in response to what the United States is calling a defensive strike. So obviously we'll be getting into that. And then how quickly Benny Johnson, even Benny Johnson, you'll see in these videos that we're going to watch today, a couple of the clips. I shouldn't say the entire videos, that'll scare people off right away, but a couple of the clips from Benny Johnson's videos, you can tell how skeptical he is of all this and how ridiculous it seems to him that it's still being called a ceasefire. Meanwhile, we're having to report on bombs and missiles and boats being sunk and missile sites being hit and different places. It's crazy to me. Obviously, we've talked about this for a long time on the show, the degradation of the word ceasefire and how easily used and abused that is now by different governments to get any kind of message sent so they can kind of get the reporting to go away for a couple days. But we'll be taking a look at that. There's a couple from Drop Site, Al Jazeera. Who else we got here? There was an ABC report kind of giving us some details. And then, like I said, with Benny Johnson, he goes from skeptical, highly skeptical, but also towing the party line to about 10 hours later making a video saying that another deal has been done. And we'll look at his page because I'm curious how many videos have come with the thumbnail, with the headline, "A deal is done" or "peace deal" or something like that. I'm guessing 10 at this point. At least 10 videos he's got telling his audience that there's been some sort of deal struck, some sort of peace works, and some sort of peace deal in the works coming any day now, any minute now. And again, it's just something that we haven't seen. And then wait till you hear what he's actually trying to attest this supposed peace deal to. Apparently, there's been some they shut down some of the airspace over one of the presidential houses. I forget which one he speaks about now at this point. I think it's Camp David. So I think they kind of closed down the airspace for tomorrow for a few hours over Camp David. And now this is to Benny Johnson signaling that somebody must be coming to the United States to sign some huge peace deal as it pertains to Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, which is, again, just a complete stretch. You know what I mean? Because not only are the two sides not even speaking to each other directly, they're still working, if at all, through the Pakistani mediator. So it's not like the Iranians and the Americans are sitting down and having, face-to-face conversations, to the last of what I've heard, at least. So it's crazy to think that the Iranians would just send over a delegation to Camp David, of all places, to come over and just randomly sign this deal. Meanwhile, all of the rhetoric is saying a different thing and singing a different tone. But like I said, we'll get into that. Trump's Memorial Day embarrassment, and then U.S. pauses arms sales to Taiwan, which we told you was coming. We could tell you that was coming with the rhetoric coming from Trump and the rest of the people in his administration after his meeting with Xi Jinping in China. This was definitely something that was coming. So I think it was Mitch McConnell, kind of half dead, asking the question of Hung Kao, kind of what's going on with that. Hung Kao forced to basically say that because of the scarcity of the United States weapons stockpiles, that's what they're using as the excuse for this, pausing of the arms sales to Taiwan, which again isn't a good look, isn't the flex or the response or the answer that he thinks it is, right? So that's bad on both fronts. It's bad that right after a meeting with Xi Jinping, the president of China, we're all of a sudden going to renege on a deal to our allies in Taiwan, while also trying to make it seem like it's because we've fucking launched and expended so much of our ammunition that we're scared that we don't have the stockpile anymore that we typically like to see, the percentages that we like to see, just in case some other actions around the world kick off, if in fact China does try to do something, invade Taiwan, or some actions in and around town, whatever it may be. They'd like to have the stockpiles in place. So Hung Kao basically forced to either lie and say that the weapons pause is because of that, or to come out and outright and say that he's worried about the United States stockpile. So he kind of flubs through the answer quite badly. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then obviously we're going to discuss Putin and Russia's threat of escalation towards Kyiv in particular, basically giving a message to foreign diplomats to beat feet, right? So it's an escalation in rhetoric, but basically, we've seen this for quite some time. Vladimir Putin hitting civilian infrastructure, lobbing drones and missiles into Kyiv and obviously different places in and around Ukraine. So the fact that he's now escalating in rhetoric is showing the frustration and the kind of the lack of success that he's seeing on the battlefield, right, on the ground there in Ukraine, is now forcing him to come up with different alternatives to try to either end this war, escalate this war, or find some way to kind of break this stalemate that he's seen here, where his forces are taking a right fucking beating. And obviously we've talked about recently the ability of the Ukrainians to strike basically anywhere inside of Russia, including Moscow, at will. Right. So, it's clear that Vladimir Putin is trying to flip the script. He wants the headlines to change as far as the Ukrainians being able to strike inside of Moscow, to obviously talking about, whatever capabilities and threats Vladimir Putin is putting towards Kyiv and Ukraine in general. So all of that to come. Hit that like button. I do appreciate you guys. And thank you so much to everybody that has sent in a Venmo, everybody that sent in a super chat, super sticker. So Tony over there, I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. Thank you, Tomas, as well. I've had a buck or two for 27 months already. Let's go, brother. Congratulations, and thank you so much for your loyalty. 27 months. I do appreciate that. Very, very nice of you guys. I can't thank you guys enough for your support. And again, many different ways in which you could help independent creators like myself. The go to bostonbrian.com, head over to the merch shop, check out the fantastic merch we got. That's a great way to help the channel as well. But I do appreciate you guys. What do you say we dive into a little bit of the nonsense, a little bit of the craziness, as always? She'll throw the chat back in there. There you go. All right, there we are. All right, so first thing we'll be looking at here is, a couple updates from what was taking place last night. This is from Jennifer Griffin, who was putting out the updates. I believe she's a Fox News affiliate, but typically gives pretty good news as it pertains to the war updates, to military actions in general. So just to kind of go through the last 18 hours or so of reporting, this is what kicked it off there. This was about 19 hours ago, or let's see here. This is probably where you should start here. About 21 hours ago, residents in southern port of Bandar Abbas heard several explosions minutes ago, while similar sounds were also reported in Sirik and Jask along the Iran's southern coastline, though the exact location and source of the blast remains unclear. And like I said, we're just kind of going through the timeline, so the information does come in. This is just kind of the initial reporting there by Iran International English 21 hours ago. And then she also has one here from open source intel, which said Iranian reports say explosions and air defense activity are being heard in cities of Kermanash and Isfahan. And then 19 hours, it says CENTCOM Sparks Captain Tim Hawkins to Fox. U.S. forces conducted self-defense strikes in southern Iran today to protect our troops from threats posed by Iranian forces. Targets included missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to emplace mines. U.S. Central Command continues to defend our forces while using restraint during an ongoing ceasefire. And again, this is combined with the reporting that Iran has shot down some of our drones and fired upon, I believe it was an F-35, which we'll get into as well. So you can see how kind of this thing escalated pretty quickly in both sides. We're trying to inflict some casualty and damage on whatever infrastructure they could there. This is also about 19 hours ago. Two more details on U.S. strikes versus Iranian targets today. 2 Iranian boats were caught laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Senior U.S. official tells me, again, this is coming from senior U.S. officials, so take it with a grain of salt. The U.S. military eliminated both IRGC vessels and was also struck at a SAM, surface-to-air missile site in Bandar Abbas. That was, quote, let me see here. That was, where'd it go? What did it say here? That was, how did I just lose that? Targeted includes missile sites and Iranian boats attempting to replace mines. U.S. Central Command continues to defend our forces. Where the hell did that just go? That wasn't even the one that I was just looking at. Let's see. Bandar Abbas, they said they were defensive strikes. They did not indicate a ceasefire is over, which is ridiculous, right? Two Iranian boats surface-to-air missiles that were targeting U.S. warplanes. That's where it was, excuse me. They were defensive strikes. They do not indicate the ceasefire is over, according to the two well-placed sources. So how the fuck you can say that that's not a violation, or basically saying that the ceasefire is over and has been? I mean, including, is the Israeli strikes in Lebanon. I mean, it's ridiculous that people continue to throw this ceasefire word around. Benny Johnson does it too, but even he shows his skepticism, right? How skeptic, like he's like, it's ridiculous for us to keep saying this as we're reporting on bombs being dropped, as drones are being shot out of the sky, F-35s are being shot at, boats are being sunk. Like, that's not a ceasefire. It's not what this is. And this goes on here. Let me see. I'll just refresh this to see if there was any other reporting that she had. Let's see. 4 hours ago, Trump told a cabinet meeting at Camp David tomorrow, making a rare trip to the presidential retreat, weather permitting. All cabinet officials are expected to attend, which gives us good information and insight as to why what Benny Johnson is talking about in his video as well. But this goes on to say, I am told the U.S. strikes are over for now. Again, these were defensive in nature, not offensive, and not in effort to break the ceasefire. The U.S. military says it reached when they saw two IRGC boats laying mines, and then also when a SAM missile site targeted its warplanes, right? So again, we'll go on to see what other statements and information we can have from this, because like I said, both sides kind of have a willingness and the ability to, kind of fudge the details a little bit for their own benefit. This was talking about here in the Hormuz letter. Iran's IRGC shot down a U.S. MQ-9 drone and fired at a U.S. F-35 fighter and an RQ-4 drone in direct response to U.S. strikes on Iran, considering the U.S. action, quote, ceasefire violations. There's just no other way in which you could, both sides to take that. And asserting Iran's legitimate and definitive right to retaliate further, per Tasnim. It goes on to say here, Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, separately said Gulf countries from now on will, quote, no longer be a shield for U.S. bases, and the U.S. will, quote, no longer have a safe haven in the region. Right. This says U.S. forces struck boats, two IRGC boats laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz and missile sites in Bandar Abbas, per CENTCOM spokesperson. Multiple explosions heard. Iran's foreign ministry now officially confirms that no Iranian nuclear commitments in uranium handover exist or will exist in any draft agreement with the U.S. And again, this is from the 25th, but this again just shows the difference in what we're hearing from the United States and the other side here. Donald Trump, continuously demanding basically the handing over of the enriched uranium, and then the other side continuously saying, well, that's not going to be part of this original deal. We could talk about that at a later date, and we could talk about how that's going to happen, but that's kind of irrelevant to whether or not you guys want to open the strait and end this thing right now. And this says, basically the same thing. Iran's foreign ministry now officially confirms that no Iranian nuclear commitments and uranium handover exist or will exist in any draft agreement with the U.S., calling all reports that claim otherwise a pure lie, making further talks pointless due to the U.S. insistence on the issue. Based on that issue, the statement declares we are not signing any agreement with the U.S., and no one can claim we are close to reaching an agreement. Iran separately stated to Tasnim they are now on the verge of canceling the negotiations completely. Again, showing how completely on the verge of, dissolving these talks are into thin air. And then only thing that's left is military action. And this is, again, further reports that we just heard there. Trump has canceled his Trump National Golf Club trip this weekend and officially canceled attending his son's wedding, citing circumstances. That was when everybody expected they were going to kick back off with that a couple days ago. But, as things are being posted like this, though, guys, right? I mean, this isn't giving us good vibes. This isn't giving the world good vibes and hopes that like some agreement is going to come to, like we're going to come to some peace talks before the bombs and missiles start escalating further. This is Donald Trump posting on Truth Social, basically the American flag over the country of Iran, right? And this is, reposted the flag, which you color it. Let me see if I can get this. This is talked about. This is from Mohammed Makhome, right? I'm not sure what his official position is. As you can see, not very good at translating that much. But it says here, the flag which you colored on the social media platform upon the map of our dear country, in reality, is only used to cover the coffins of your soldiers. Oh, dreamer, right? So again, showing a clear willingness to show defiance, right? A clear willingness to not, kowtow to what Donald Trump wants and to just sit back and let him do this shit on Truth Social, which is not telling me that some peace agreement is like right around the corner, like Barack Ravid and Axios would have you believe every single time. But I don't know. I found that to be, pretty apparent as to, and there was a couple of them too. There was a couple. Let me see. There was a few more. There was this one, Brigadier General. It says that we will make the Persian Gulf safe, and we are prepared to deliver a harsh and hellish response to any aggression. Right? Again, not showing us somebody that's willing to back down or capitulate. This is Galibaf says no executioner can stand in the face of Iran's faithful soldiers. Here's another one. The Iranian president says we will not yield to the enemy's excessive demands, and the rights of the Iranian people must be fully respected. It goes on. The trembling Zionist entity is breathing its last breaths. The leader of the Islamic Revolutionary affirmed that the Zionist entity is breathing its last breath, saying from now on, these slogans, death to America and death to Israel, will be shared slogans for the Islamic nation and the oppressed peoples of the world, especially the youth. Again, not showing us like a handout as for like a handshake that is likely to come, right? And it says here, Iranian Foreign Ministry issues statement on the flagrant violation of the ceasefire by the United States. Talking about last night, the Iranian Foreign Ministry affirmed that the terrorist American army, which continues its illegal and unjustified operations since the announcement of the ceasefire, bears responsibility for all the repercussions stemming from these aggressive acts. So again, just to kind of reiterate the willingness and the defiance from the other side, the willingness to kind of stand in the face of the blockade, stand in the face of the threats posed by Donald Trump. And again, this is another huge talking point as well. This is another huge sticking point, which has probably become more and more so over the last couple of days, talking about the continuance of the Israeli strikes in Lebanon. This is new Israeli strikes reported in southern Lebanon overnight. 6 bombs landed on residential homes and caused mass destruction, says Press TV's correspondent. 2 to 3 bombs also targeted nearby. That says Sharkia. We are 10 kilometers north of Litani and 30 kilometers away from the borders, he adds. Let me see here. I think there was further reporting. Yeah, there was this as well. It says Israel carried out heavy attacks across southern Lebanon and the western Bekaa Valley on Monday, according to a compiled list shared by reporter Courtney Banu on the ground. 75 airstrikes hit at least 50 locations across mostly the south, with the heaviest concentration of Zatwar el-Zakiria, 10 strikes, Nabatia, 7 strikes, Yatir, 5 strikes, Sultunia, in Mifdun, Kafra, and Arab Salim, 3 to 4 each. And in the western, Bekaa was struck 6 times. 18 drone strikes targeted at least 14 locations. Artillery shelling hit more than 25 towns. Lebanon Health Ministry reported 34 people killed and 62 wounded on Sunday, bringing the cumulative toll since March 2nd to 3,185 killed, 9,633 wounded. The official toll from Monday has not yet been released. Again, just some footage coming in from some of the strikes there. But again, this has become a pretty big point of contention in the talks between the United States and Iran, right? This was originally what we saw too, when the original, I think it was the ceasefire talks were happening. And it was, the Iranians were coming out and saying, well, the Israelis have to stop their attacks on Lebanon. And if they don't, then we have no deal. We're not even going to come to the table. We're not even going to come to these talks. And it was then when the United States had to be like, hey, fucking, you guys got to stop this shit or we're not going to have an agreement. And again, they've kind of pretended since then to be complying with that. Meanwhile, we've seen nothing but death and destruction in Lebanon, Gaza, and the West Bank ever since. So again, the ceasefire term being thrown around loosely, as you can see, which is just adds to the degradation of the word. This is Israeli strikes across Gaza killed 4, wound 17 on Monday. In addition, 6-year-old Minta Allah Abu Libda and a 31-year-old Mam Hanan Mahmoud killed in the strike on the Gath displacement camp west of Khan Yunis. 17 others were wounded in the attack. According to Palestine Online, 2 further deaths were recorded Monday from wounds sustained in earlier strikes. Ahmad Samir Fahat died of injuries he received 2 days ago in a strike in Mawasi, west of Khan Yunis. And Nadal Shalha died of wounds from an Israeli strike on a security personnel near the 17th roundabout in northwestern Gaza. Israeli forces also opened fire on east of Gaza City alongside artillery shelling, while Israeli naval boats fired on the city's coastline. Heavy tank fire and artillery struck eastern Khan Yunis simultaneously. In Al-Nusrat refugee camp in central Gaza, social media post from Gaza related to the aggregator accounts indicate a strike destroyed 5 homes, which is pictured below. It says here, as you can see, Since the ceasefire took effect on October 11th, over 900 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 2,700 wounded, with 777 bodies recovered, according to Gaza's health ministry. And here's the footage here. Gaza tonight, the ceasefire in full effect, obviously talking about, speaking facetiously, speaking sarcastically. But it goes on here to talk about, let's see here. This is from Al Jazeera as well, just kind of giving us some information as to what was taking place. Says a senior spokesperson for Iran's armed forces has said any new aggression against Iran will be met with a far more severe response that extends beyond the region. So again, obviously showing the willingness to escalate and retaliate if, again, this continues to take place. This says breaking Iran's military warns new aggression will trigger wider and more violent retaliation. Lebanese rescue workers here have recovered 12 bodies following these Israeli strikes on the town of Mas'agata in the south of the country. Lebanon's national news agency reports. Let's see, I think there was a few more of these as well. The U.S. military says it struck missile launch sites and mine-laying vessels in southern Iran. CENTCOM described attacks as self-defense, as was reported earlier. Just curious if there's anything else. It says Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei says Gulf powers will no longer be a shield for American military bases and will no longer have a safe haven in the region. We talked about that. Just seeing if there's anything we missed here. The IRGC in Tehran has the right to respond to any U.S. ceasefire violation after U.S. forces said they attacked missile launch sites and mine-laying vessels in southern Iran. This was a statement. I think we have this further on in the show from Marco Rubio in his just pussy-ass response to everything, including the threats made by Vladimir Putin and Russia. Here's what we already reported as well, talking about the U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drones. So I think that was it as far as that front was concerned. Let's see here. Iran president says commanders that regional countries concluded that U.S. military presence in the Gulf has failed to ensure their lasting security. Again, showing them that they can be hit. Hezbollah drones explode in northern Israel near a Lebanese border. A train has crashed into a school bus. So again, I think that's pretty much the updates on that subject as far as the clashes and the, I don't know what you'd call them, the ceasefire violations, obviously, between the United States and in Iran. But this is ABC, just kind of giving us anything that we may have missed. It says U.S. launches new strikes in Iran amid peace talks. And this also goes on to ask one of the guests that they're speaking to, what this means for peace talks going forward. And obviously, it will have and probably play a big part in hampering any, again, active peace talks that may or may have not have been in place to begin with. But let's see if we can just dive through. This is a really quick clip. It's only about 3 minutes, 35 seconds. Just kind of detailing what happened and obviously what we may see, what we could see stemming from this. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing. It is a big boost, a big help to the channel if you do all of those things. Obviously, if you send an emoji in the chat there, make sure that the algorithm knows that you're engaging and you like what you're watching. All those things go to help. And I appreciate everybody throwing in a buck or two in the chat there, sending a buck or two to the Venmo. It goes a long way in helping this channel continue. Thank you guys for the 20K subscribers. Hopefully we'll get to 25K before midterms and we'll have another goal to celebrate. Let's continue to push. Let's continue the push. Let's go. All right. So this is, again, ABC News. It says U.S. launches new strikes in Iran amid peace talks. And they talked to, I believe it was it says here, former NATO ambassador, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what he says.
Let's bring in ABC News contributor and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Doug Lute for more. Hi, General Lute. So this weekend, the U.S. officials said they were optimistic about a peace deal. How do these latest strikes affect the negotiations?
Well, I think the strikes demonstrate that U.S. forces and Iranian forces are in close contact. I mean, they are literally on either side of the very narrow Strait of Hormuz. And if U.S. forces feel threatened, whether it's by the potential of Iranian small boats laying mines in the strait, or by perhaps radar, rocket-based, missile-based radars illuminating U.S. forces, that is trying to detect U.S. forces, then the U.S. forces will take defensive measures. So I think this just reflects, as you've reported, the fragility of the ceasefire that's in place.
Again, that's what we've talked about here a lot, is just the inherent danger of having two nations, obviously two warring nations, two militaries, in that close of proximity. things like this take place. One thing leads to another. Escalation comes pretty rapidly. When you got this situation taking place, when these militaries, or at least these people with the capabilities that they do have, is small, or as as compact as the strait is, just allows these people to inherently get into these skirmishes. If they see something, they're going to react to it. You know what I mean? Obviously, the Iranians are going to react in retaliation to whatever happens by the U.S. So again, it's just calling for these types of situations to happen the longer that these two militaries are in this close proximity, obviously.
This weekend, the U.S. also signaled they want Arab nations to join the Abraham Accords as part of a peace deal with Iran. How much does that complicate these talks?
I mean, again, and there's kind of comical reporting coming out from that much too. I guess Donald Trump was on a phone call with some of the leaders around there, and he brought that part up, that he wants them to sign on to the Abraham Accords, and there was like complete silence on the end of the line, to the point where Donald Trump had to be like, "Are you guys still there? Like, are you still there?" Because they were like, "What? Are you out of your fucking tree? Like, what is going on at this point?" And again, he talks about this as just adding complications to this. It's just making it more complex and less likely that you're going to have a deal signed, right? If you start adding this stuff in, if you start demanding the Gulf nations have to all of a sudden sign on to the Abraham Accords and all of this, it's like you're less likely to get a deal, where we're already not likely to get one if you start adding in all of these different kind of, complications and different things that people have to agree to, in the meantime.
I think it greatly complicates these talks, and I think eventually this will sort of fall aside as a sort of late-breaking good idea coming out of the White House. I think most important, this notion of the Abraham Accords reflects the complexity of the players here. You have not only the two protagonists, the U.S. And Iran, obviously, but also Israel, and then also the Gulf states, the Gulf partners, who have suffered thousands of strikes, retaliatory strikes from Iran. So this is complex, not only in terms of what will be discussed, but who will be at the table and how their interests will be concerned.
So again, this whole thing got complicated the moment the United States engaged in the escalation that they did, and again, didn't have the mitigatory things in place to help against the retaliations that Iran was sending into the Gulf nations. Obviously, they saw harm, and they continue to see the harm from whether it's tourism, whatever it may be at this point in time. Obviously, the threats that's posed to them if the escalations continue, if this war kicks back off in the way that we saw, it to begin with, then obviously we've seen them putting up the drone nets and trying to cover their oil storage facilities to the best of their ability. So, you can see kind of why it's going to be difficult for these peace talks to happen, for this agreement to happen. So many players involved now, so many people that feel like they've been slighted or hurt or harmed or damaged economically, politically, geopolitically, right? So it's you can see the complexity of this. It's like, as soon as a situation like this gets kicked off, it's what every expert has told you. It's difficult to put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? It's very easy to start a war, very difficult to end a war. Right. So this is why there's so many players involved, so many moving pieces and elements. You can't control it, much like we saw last night. Obviously, when you're talking about negotiations and peace talks, when you got all of the Gulf nations, all of which have seen kind of, harm come to them at the hands of this war, because of this war, they want to see something come from this. They want to see, themselves kind of not enriched, but made whole for whatever they've seen. So it's, you can see the difficulty in place of trying to get whatever talks they see are happening kind of done at this point. So he continues a little bit here.
Stockpile of enriched uranium is one of the keys to any deal. President Trump says Tehran can either hand it over or the U.S. can destroy it. How would we go about doing that?
The destruction option is difficult to imagine. I mean, we did what we could do by way of deeply penetrating bombing raids back in June. And that has probably at least paused for now, or stymied, or perhaps even set back the ability of Iran to produce a nuclear capability. Much more likely, I think, is the notion that international inspectors, the IAEA, who have a track record, a proven track record of inspections in Iran, would be. Do
you guys remember that there was some sort of agreement? There was some sort of, like, it pertained to Iran and the United States and nuclear. I think Obama was involved in some way, shape, or form that did involve the nuclear inspectors to begin with. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm remembering some sort of, was it the JCPO something, right? Something like that around those lines. I'm just saying that involved the IAEA, that involved the atomic inspectors to go out there and basically say from the time it got dug up to the time it was used at its end goal, like, we could keep track of that. We could, we had notes, we had pictures, we had videos, we had all the information that we needed. Could we have done more? Absolutely. But I'm remembering to a certain extent. And again, the people that actually know what seem to think that like that's what it's going to come back down to anyway. Only that we're going to have, expended billions and billions and billions of dollars. Obviously, the 13 lives that were thrown away needlessly in our armed forces by this fucking president. The hurt and the harm caused to the American public with the raise in oil and gas prices, and obviously the raise in prices that come from that stem from that kind of filtered downhill from the oil and gas price raises. I mean, don't worry about all of that, but it's just kind of, don't worry about the frozen assets that are going to be returned to Iran, or the fact that they're going to have, even more control depending on what that comes, what comes out of that, what that looks like at the end of this. They're going to have more control, or we're going to have to respect their ability to control the Strait of Hormuz a lot more. So again, it just seems like a lot of nonsense and a waste of time, waste of money, waste of life. Not to mention the thousands of Iranian civilians that were killed. Obviously, the war crimes that were committed, the children that were killed in this, and obviously the threat that this continues. This is by no stretch of the imagination done. This is by no stretch of the imagination over. This is not just down to some sort of you sign here on a dotted line peace agreement, as we saw last night. Definitely has the ability to kick back off at a moment's notice.
In to monitor either the removal of this highly enriched uranium or the Iranian destruction or diluting of the highly enriched uranium. So I think probably the IAEA, international presence, will be the ticket here.
And General Lute, meanwhile, Russia's threatening systematic strikes on Kyiv and calling on all foreign nationals and diplomats to leave the country. That seems like a major escalation. What do you make of that?
Well, it is rhetorically an escalation, but frankly, Russia has been bombarding civilian targets to include potential diplomatic facilities in Kyiv for over 4 years now. So I think in practice, it probably doesn't reflect much of a change, but it does indicate, I think, that Russia is feeling increasingly pressed on the battlefield and has opted to escalate the rhetoric.
And again, that kind of gets ahead of us a little bit because we have more to come on that later on the show. But he's absolutely right. I think Putin is very frustrated at what he's seen not only on the battlefield, but again the lack of capabilities that his air defenses has shown recently, and obviously the vast capabilities that the Ukrainian military has shown in their medium and long range strikes with their drone capabilities lately. So he's kind of looking for another way out. Again, a way to escalate, a way to make it seem like he's going to escalate. To maybe hope, I don't know, something comes out of that to favor, that's more favorable to his side. But he just wants out of the headlines the fact that Ukraine has the ability to do some serious damage, at will, basically inside of obviously Ukrainian occupied territory and clearly inside of Russia itself. But along the lines of this fucking moron here and what's taking place with Iran, obviously last night, and what we've seen time and time again from these, the reports and suggestions that a deal is right around the corner, whether it's Barack Ravid or Benny Johnson here, they've been very, very willing to toe the party line. But you can hear the skepticism in Benny Johnson's voice here. Like, even he recognizes how stupid this all looks. When you're talking about a ceasefire, but also talking about bombs, when you're talking about a ceasefire and peace agreements, but also talking about drones being shot down, when you're talking about a peace agreement and a ceasefire being in place, while also talking about ships being sunk. Like, it's ridiculous on so many levels. But let me see, before I hop into this, I want to just show you, I want to do this. Let me see if I can go to Benny Johnson's page here. Yeah. Let's see if we can check this out because I'm curious. I'll get out of the way here. I'm curious how many times Benny Johnson has put on a thumbnail just recently that the deal has been done. Like, this war is done. The peace has been signed. So I'll just scroll back. I won't even scroll back that long. We'll go back 2 weeks. Okay. We'll just go 2 weeks. So already here we got new ceasefire, but that is pertaining to Ukraine and Russia, which I don't know where the fuck he was pulling that out of. So let's just go on here. We'll see. Let's see how many times He's losing it. Plan revealed. So here's a plan revealed. So there's one, but that's with Cuba. Okay, so we really can't count that one. There's another one. War is over, pertaining to Ukraine. So he just every single day he's got like a war is over. That absolutely just doesn't happen. Here's another one. It's over. Let's see here. I know there's a bunch of them coming up. Let's see. We got insane viral vid. He did what? History made with China. That doesn't tell us much. Cuba invaded. Is she dead? Movie roasted. It's happening. Let's see here. Dems rejected. He's losing it. He's finished. Everything is just like doomsday with this asshole. All right. Peace reached. He's got one peace reached here. Okay. So there's one with Iran. Okay. Let's see here. He's got another one. It's happening, but that's with Ilhan Omar. So we can't count that one. Let's see here. It's official, but that's with Obama. The deal reached. Here's another one. Another one. Deal reached. There's two. Let's see. Files released. What the fuck is that? First look. Anti-Christian. It's happening. I think that's pretty much that's pertaining to Iran as well. It's happening, where he goes on to say there's a deal being reached. So there's 3. Here's another one above us. War is over. There's 4. Okay, the war's over, guys. This is the 4th time the war's been over. A deal's been signed. Total surrender. Iran surrenders. There's 5. Okay, so they've now surrendered 5 times. It's been over 5 times now. It's over, right? It's happening. He says that the Strait of Hormuz is open. So there's 6 right there. It's open. Deal done. There's 7. Oh, that's with China. We can't count that one. So we're back to 6. Okay. War back on and deal done. So we're about at 6 or 7. We'll go 7. Okay, and that's just in the last 2 weeks. So believe me, if we went back further than that, there'd be a ton more. But he actually goes from, and these are the 2 that we're going to look at, these top 2 here, where he goes from war back on, right, 18 hours ago. That's what he put on, war back on, talking about the strikes and the skirmishes that took place last night. And then several hours later, 13 hours later, he says massive Trump deal done. So war was back on. The deal was done here, right? So down here, you can see the deal was done, and then the war's back on, and now the deal's done again. That's like, Jesus Christ. But this is the one. Let me see here. What's the, now I'm getting mixed up on which one I have pulled up. This is massive Trump-Iran peace deal, so this must be the other one. All right, so we got to look at this one. All right, let's take a look. I'll go back on the screen now. But
the ceasefire.
You can see how ridiculous it is. No, shut up, Benny. You speak when spoken to, and you start from the beginning. All right, so again, this is Benny Johnson talking about last night's skirmishes, talking about the firing upon missile locations and ships, and obviously the Iran retaliations last night. And he listened to the skepticism in his voice. That's what I really want to get across. We don't have to watch too much of this. You don't have to dive into too much of this. And the next one is hilarious. Again, talking about 12 or 13 hours later, like the peace deal is done, and what he actually attests to that peace deal being done, the information that he got, the inside info, the inside scoop that he got that's now telling him that some peace deal is going to be signed at Camp David. We'll go on to that. But this is him even just clearly communicating to me or anybody with a brain in their heads that he's skeptical and he doesn't believe any of this bullshit, but is going to toe the party line. No doubt. He's going to continue to do the cheerleading and everything he can do with the pom-poms and jumping up and down and the yays. He's going to continue to do that. But also listen to the way in which he talks about this and the word ceasefire and the way he laughs and he giggles and he crackles a little bit. Like, he's trying to communicate like he's not fucking stupid, and he wants desperately to come out and tell everybody that he's not buying this shit, but he can't because he's still, again, a sycophant, and he's still a propagandist, and he still has to toe the party line, and he still probably gets paid by the Kremlin, allegedly. All right, let's see if we can dive into, like I said, just a couple minutes of this. But just like I said, the skepticism in his voice and how even he calls out the ridiculousness of this ongoing talk of a ceasefire being in place. All right, here we go.
You ever had one of those friends that no matter where they went, they were always getting in a fight, always managed to figure out how to throw a haymaker and pop off, and you just needed...
Please don't fucking tell me that was like you're trying to describe yourself right now. Like the last thing that anybody envisions when they think Benny Johnson is Benny Johnson going into like a bar as an alpha male, just swinging on the biggest tough guy he could find. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Them to calm down, because this is a special and important event and everybody needs to have a nice, easy night. So no fighting. That's the way that we feel right now about Iran and Israel and America and the tenuous situation that may lead to an everlasting peace, may lead to the greatest peace deal in the history of the world. actually. We'll cover that in just a second. Or
Please
it may
do.
descend into further madness and $200
Again,
barrel
how's
for-
that for covering all your bases, right? How's that for being a political commentator, right? And just trying to spread it around as much as humanly possible to say that I was right no matter what. Like, we could come to the biggest world-changing peace deal that is going to change things for generations to come, or we could dissolve into mass chaos in World War III, and this thing could go back to drones, missiles, and bombs, and girls' schools being hit. Right? It's like, what? He's got everything covered as far as that is concerned. Like, no matter what happens now, he can say that, okay, I said that during my show, right? Isn't that what I called? Didn't I tell you that was going to happen? Like, are you trying to give the government credit because we're now in this area, this instance of instability where we don't know if it's going to be World War III or, again, what you're calling some world-changing peace deal, even though that world-changing peace deal is inevitably going to give Iran more power, more prestige, more demanded respect on the geopolitical stage because of what they've been able to accomplish against Israel in the United States of America, right? I mean, I think it's a lot of people are now looking at them like, holy shit, they've been able to hold them off for this long. Like, they've been able to withstand the blockade of the strait this long. Like, we better think twice if we're going to do something in the future, because obviously they have more military capabilities, they have more smarts, more know-how, and they have the knowledge to be able to get around the blockade, to get around the economic sanctions put on them, the limitations that are put on them to continue doing whatever they're doing. You know what I mean? It's just, that's clear to everybody at this point. But, listen to him. He goes on here to talk about the strikes last night and how it's, ridiculous in his eyes to continue calling this a ceasefire.
for oil and a global recession. So, it's a touchy area of the world, and that area just got touched, meaning bombed to smithereens. Karg Island here, the oil depot of all of Iran, it was set ablaze tonight as the United States began bombing Iran again after they blew out of the sky a number of...
Now, I'm just curious. We just went through Jennifer Griffin's reporting. We just went through the Hormuz letter. We did Drop Site. We did Al Jazeera. We looked at an ABC report. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but did anybody else see? I'll look at it now. I don't want to, we'll check it out now. But I didn't hear what he's talking about. U.S. Islands. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, it's happened before. But it's strange that in all the reporting that we went through, that says March 13th, Iran's build up and defense of the Karg Island to protect. Let's see here. Put this on the screen. This is the latest, right? March 25th, 2020. So this was yesterday. Iran building up defensive Karg Island to protect against potential U.S. ground attacks. So say, I mean, is anybody hearing about this supposed attack on Karg Island? Again, let me know if I'm wrong. I have no problem putting the hand up if the hand up has to go up. But I'm just, it seems to be Benny Johnson's the only person I've heard reported on this so far. Anything else I see is from a month ago, March 14th, March 13th. Let me know in the chat. For some reason, my chat's broken today, and I can't see it down the bottom, so it might have to go up a little bit more before I see it. But let me know in the chat. My apologies. But I'm just curious because, I don't know, Benny Johnson seems very confident about this, but where he's getting it from, I do not know.
9 Reaper drones. The U.S. took out some of their boats that were laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
But that's not even near that. Karg Island is way up north in comparison to the Strait of Hormuz, right? So why would there be military action on Karg Island suggests something totally different, as opposed to, the Iranians were just laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. We took that as a threat. We attacked them. They, in fact, painted us with their SAMs. Then we, in fact, took out those missile installations, those missile sites. Like that would report, because look at, hold on. I'll show you guys here. I mean, I know you guys are up to date and up to speed, but just in case anybody doesn't recognize, we'll go to Google Earth as we do. Hopefully it doesn't shut down the old compute here. Flip you guys over. So we go, you can see it from here for Christ's sakes, right? So we go here. Here's the Strait of Hormuz, right? Strait of Hormuz is here. Karg Island is way the fuck up here. Right? This is Karg Island. So again, why there would be, and again, right hand up if I'm wrong, right hand up if I'm wrong. Let me know in the chat. I still can't see anything in the chat. For some reason, my chat's broken on StreamYard here. I think I can only see about 10 minutes ago. But yeah, but you guys let me know, because this is the Strait of Hormuz. I would assume here's Sirik, right, where some of the explosions were reported, right? Obviously around the Strait of Hormuz. I'm curious what the hell he's talking about. So I'm just way the fuck up here is Karg Island. So what the fuck that would have to do with them laying mines in the strait is beyond me. I'm just saying. Just doesn't seem to add up as far as what I've seen. All right, we'll go back. My apologies.
Not what you want to see here. Ooh, let's see. The Iranian forces launched cruise missiles at drones and U.S. destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz. American aircraft struck 2 vessels earlier today, killing a number of Revolutionary Guard members. The IRGC, the Iranian government's navy, is now hitting back. Naval forces are targeting American destroyers.
You think he's going to read here? I'll get out of the way. Do you think he's going to read what I'm covering? The Bandar Abbas update, where multiple American drones, possible MQ-9 Reapers, were shot down near Bandar Abbas roughly an hour ago, believed to have been hunting the launch sites of Iranian missiles targeting U.S. warships. You think he's going to read that, Pot? Oh, let's see here. Let's see.
Strait of Hormuz. Fires are simultaneously burning on Karg Island, Iran's primary oil export terminal. And multiple American drones were shot down roughly an hour ago. They had been hunting launch sites for Iranian missiles.
He sounds so defeated. He sounds so deflated that he had to read that. And American drones were shot down an hour ago.
Targeting warships. And there are conflicting reports of Israel also participating in these strikes. So, just like one more, just one more for the boys, right? Before our grand peace negotiations, just one more, just for old time's sake. Goodness gracious. U.S. launched one.
Yeah, goodness gracious. So even this is like the skepticism just kind of showing its face here with Benny Johnson, just a touch, right? I'm not giving him any credit, any flowers or anything like that. But, his ass is showing just a touch in this video where he's like, just another one for the boys. Even him talking about that in Israel, getting another punch in with Iran, or the United States getting another punch in before this huge deal is done. Like, even the way he said that, like, you can tell that it's like, it was a mocking. He said it mockingly. He said it in a joking manner, comparative to how he usually speaks about this. But he could tell. He goes on. He even says that, like, Jesus Christ or something in the background. I forget now what he said, but even he's kind of muttering under his breath about how stupid this sounds and how it looks. You're talking about this peace deal right around the corner. Meanwhile, hey, we struck Iran. They don't go side by side. Those two headlines don't typically line up together, like strikes in Iran with negotiations. Just typically not what you see happening.
Describes a narrow targeting self-defense strikes inside of Iran on Monday night, escalating tensions in the regions as diplomats fight for peace. According to Central Command, U.S. forces targeted missile launch sites in southern Iran.
You hear after he said peace, right? And I don't know, did we miss where he read did he say fragile ceasefire yet? Because you can see where he said peace. He goes, you know what I mean? So, like, making a joke out of it that they're talking about they're talking about it as peace. Right. So I know these are very subtle details. These are very, minute things that I'm sure not a ton of people are picking up on. But, if you've watched enough of this asshole, if you watch enough of this propaganda, you can start to see when they don't even believe their own bullshit, which is a lot of the time. But they typically are pretty good at hiding it. But listen to him here.
Peace negotiations, just one more, just for old time's sake. Goodness gracious. U.S. launched what officials describe as a narrow targeting self-defense strikes inside of Iran on Monday night, escalating tensions in the regions as diplomats fight for peace. According to Central Command, U.S. forces targeted missile launch sites in southern Iran and vessels that were attempting to lay naval mines in strategic waterways used by military commercial ships. U.S. forces conducted the strikes in southern Iran today to protect our troops, CENTCOM said. Targets included missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to emplace mines. U.S. Central Command continues to defend our forces while using restraint during ongoing ceasefire. Top Iranian officials were in Doha on Monday. The imminent peace deal is about to happen. The fragile hope of an accord in the recent days was dealt a fresh blow when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to crush Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Again, another huge point of contention that we talked about earlier on in the show.
President Trump made demands for a broader peace deal across the Middle East. Oh, boy. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen,
oh boy, here we go. Like, he doesn't buy the bullshit about a peace talk, right? He doesn't buy the bullshit about some deal being right around the corner or some great talks being had by all sides and everybody coming to some agreement. Like, he doesn't buy this for one fucking second, and he absolutely recognizes how disastrous this is, okay? That's just, I want to be clear on what this coverage is about and why we're looking at this piece of shit. Like, that's what I want you to know coming out of this. He absolutely fucking knows he's a liar, a hack, and a soulless, lifeless piece of shit. Right? That's what I want you to draw from this. And I think there's a little bit more. I think even there's a little bit more skepticism that comes out. And then, like I said, there's another one here where he goes on afterwards, about 12 or 13 hours after that video was posted that we're watching right now. He talks about some massive deal that he, is skeptical of in this video. He's now has to announce that massive deal because the airspace over Camp David was locked down. And apparently we just heard that Trump is planning on visiting possibly. So we'll see what the hell he's talking about there. But it definitely doesn't give anybody hopes or suggestions that like Iran's coming over to sign some huge peace deal whatsoever. Let's see here what he is.
Yes, official CENTCOM spokesperson explaining.
Sorry.
Hawkins says U.S. forces conducted self-defense strikes in Iran today to protect our troops. Targeted included missile launch sites. US
Go ahead.
Command-
it's reading. It's tough. I know it's tough. Sometimes it is difficult. I flub words myself, not as much as you do, right? And I don't say I have the best words or, I'm the best of the best of the best at this like you consistently do. And the people that you follow always say that you do. So I really don't mind. Like I'm believe me, I'm one to make fun of myself. I'm very self-deprecating at that. I will absolutely call out the mistakes that I make. So, I kind of downplay that for a lot of people, but to you saying you have the best words, your dear leader saying you have the best words, you think reading would be a little bit easier for you guys? I don't know.
Continues to defend our forces while using restraint during the ceasefire, confirming that the ceasefire is still on. Explosions rock Iran. U.S. Central Command just confirmed that U.S. forces did.
You hear the right? So every time he's talked about peace or ceasefire or anything like that, he's had some kind of like natural reaction that he couldn't help, like a or a Jesus Christ or a something that shows you that he's like, that's just ridiculous, right? Like this is just, I can't believe I have to report this at this point that I'm talking about a ceasefire. Meanwhile, we're talking about explosions and bombs and missiles and shit. Like, come on, what are we doing?
In fact, strike Iran. Again, conflicting sources say that Israel was part of these joint strikes. We'll see how that rolls out. But anyway, this is what everybody is saying. More details on the strikes. 2 Iranian boats were caught laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Senior U.S. officials tell me the U.S. eliminated these vessels. They killed 3 Iranians while doing so. The surface-to-air missile site.
I think the last one that I heard was 4. I think I've heard the death toll was up to 4 as far as the strikes last night were concerned. Again, take that with a grain of salt. I'm sure that could change, momentarily or at any second. But the last that I saw, I believe, was 4.
In Bandar Abbas was targeted by U.S. warplanes. These were defensive strikes. They do not include. This does not indicate the ceasefire is over. Okay. Yep. All right. Great. We're still bombing each other.
I mean, come on. Does it get any more blatant than that? Does it get any more obvious? Like, that's Benny Johnson, the propagandist, one of the main propagandists for this administration, who continues to toe the party line at every turn, right? He's made a clear decision. He's made a very clear decision. And in case you're just joining us, I know we've had an addition of a lot of new subscribers lately, and I very much appreciate it. But, we've covered, a few months ago where Benny Johnson made a clear decision to not report any of the negativity, not report any of the Epstein files or any of the bad things stemming from the war with Iran or any of the bad reporting from Greenland or Cuba, anything. He's made a clear decision and literally said it in one of his podcasts that, you have to be with the Fury. You have to be with the team. If you're not with us, you're against us type of thing. And that he was going to go full bore for this administration, full bore for the Titanic. And he was going to ride that sumbitch down until it hit the bottom of the ocean. So that's what he's doing. But it's clear here in this video, and I'll play that one more time, where he's talking about ceasefire or peace, or anybody speaking about ceasefire or peace as we're talking about, the firing upon into Iran, and obviously the MQ-9 Reaper drones being shot down. Like, that's not ceasing of firing by any stretch of the imagination, by any definitional use of the word. That is clearly firing, again, which is antithetical to the word ceasefire by all meanings, by all regards. So again, here he is. Listen to his clear skepticism come out, where even I don't even think he's noticing that he's doing this, but it's clear that it's obvious to him. You can tell.
They do not include it. This does not indicate the ceasefire is over. Okay. Yep. All right. Great.
Right? That sounds like something we'd say. That sounds like something we'd say in the case that the administration was trying to get us to believe that in Gaza or here in Iran that a ceasefire was actually in place. Would be okay. All right, there, Chief. Yeah, all right, buddy. Yeah, smoke another one there. You know, if you want to believe that, you can believe that, but we can see with our own eyes what the fuck's actually taking place. And when you see shit exploding, that's typically not a sign of a ceasefire. I'm just going to throw that one out there. But again, he goes from this to this just roughly 12 or 13 hours after. So this was 5 hours ago. The last one, I believe, was his last one of last night. So again, last video last night to the first video this morning was, war has gone out, fucking back to bombs and explosions. His first video this morning is now massive Trump-Iran peace deal announcement. Was that announced? Did you guys hear that announced? I didn't hear that announced. Did you hear that announced? Anybody hear that announced? Let me know in the chat if you heard that announced, because I didn't hear that announced. But apparently Benny Johnson's got the inside scoop. And again, it should only take us a couple minutes to dive through the ignorance, the bullshittery of this one as well, because you can't watch that last video and understand how skeptical he is of the reporting and obviously the line of bullshit coming from our administration about what's taking place, to go from that to, no, yeah, I'm definitely on board with, because the airspace over Camp David is closed, that must mean some peace deals in the works. Not only that, but he goes on to say that it's been announced. So this is how propaganda works. This is how clickbait, right? This is clear clickbait right here. Massive Trump-Iran peace deal announced. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Okay, so clearly getting people to click on that for a very specific reason. Meanwhile, it's just a complete letdown when you actually watch the video, much like you guys experience on a daily basis with people on the left and the right. But not here. Not here. We typically don't utilize any of that bullshit. It's typically what happened, when it happened, straight to the point, or some sort of opinionated take on that. But again, here's Benny Johnson. Again, a mere 12 or 13 hours after that last video that we watched, talking about a massive Trump-Iran peace deal that's been announced. You didn't hear it. I didn't hear it, but Benny heard it. So let's see what he heard. This fucking fool.
I was raised in the Midwest and I played football, never any good, but hey, man, you're in the middle of Iowa. What else are you going to do? And it was very interesting to watch how the coaches would settle disputes between the players. If you had two players that were beefing, you'd circle everybody up, and then you'd run Oklahoma's.
Jesus. Now, I'll right hand up. I watched a little bit of the last one and heard the skepticism in his voice. This one didn't catch. I figured it would be good enough for us to dive into together. But the fact that he's trying to make it seem like he ran Okie drills, Oklahoma drills, what he's trying to call them now. Again, showing that he probably was sitting more on the bench than he was doing any Okie drills. He was probably handing out water bottles, if he even was, in fact, part of the football team. Oh, boy. Jeez. You know what? I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him, because, there's been a time or two where I've thought that Benny Johnson's more comfortable in a men's locker room and probably in a men's showering room anywhere than anywhere he's been before. So, it kind of tracks as far as Benny Johnson is concerned, right? What's one better than Grindr is getting actual access into a fucking, a men's locker room. You know what I mean? So sometimes the gym isn't enough for Benny. So, I could see where he had, taken the leap to join the football team. But sure, I'm not buying that he was involved in many Okie drills.
The two guys, they just hit each other until the problems were solved, until the score was settled, until the beef was over. And I think that's actually what's happening in the Middle East right now between Iran and America, is we're getting out the final Oklahoma drills as America and Iran.
Yeah, it's just everybody's going to punch each other in the face just a couple more times before we get a peace deal done, right? I mean, it's like, I don't think we've done enough damage. We haven't shot up enough missiles. You guys haven't shot up enough missiles. Why don't we just pretend to, we'll pretend that we saw you land some mines in the strait, right? And then we could shoot on that boat. We'll kill those people. And then you guys could paint us with a surface to air missile, right? And then in retaliation for that, we could take out that missile site. We'll just have like a really fun night of skirmishes. We'll just go back and forth and see how many people we can kill, basically. Why don't we do that just a couple more times? Possibly. We haven't had enough fun yet, right? Our stockpiles aren't depleted enough here. We'd like to continue spending billions and billions of dollars per day and expending, millions of dollars on this ammunition that we're losing and utilizing. Like, let's just continue to do that. You guys haven't had enough. We haven't had enough. Like, does that sound like something that would happen? Like, does that sound like what's going on? They had to get one more slugfest out before this really substantial peace deal was done. Like, shut the fuck up.
Both fought each other last night, but the ceasefire is still on the same team.
He's laughing about the ceasefire, right? So he clearly just said the ceasefire is still in place, and he's laughing about it still. So again, showing he doesn't buy his own bullshit. It's just very clear in these two videos, probably a little bit more so than has been. It's he's making it quite easy to call this one out, to pick this one apart.
Drones were blown out of the sky, and an F-35 was shot at.
But ceasefire, baby, ceasefire.
2 Iranian boats are at the bottom of the ocean. Apparently, 3 or 4 Iranian soldiers are dead after skirmishes last night in the lead up to a peace agreement. A peace agreement is still technically on because, well, the markets are still rip-roaring as they have.
Wait, so he points to the markets to give you guys evidence, or to give his audience evidence that some sort of peace deal is in the works. Tell me how that works. Now, tell me how you can pull those two strings and put them together, right? How are you going to tie those two laces together? I'm not sure. That's kind of crazy. I'm not sure on that one.
Today, almost up a point, and oil has crashed again. Look at this. For Brent crude financials, $86 a barrel. Just a reminder.
But again, we've also seen it jump up just as quickly, right? We've seen it. What's it at right now? Hold on. All right. Let's fucking hell this motherfucker. Yeah. Oh, this stupid son of a bitch should have waited just a couple hours before he made this video. All right, when did he make this? This was, hold on, let me get out of this. How long ago was this video made? This video was made 5 hours ago, okay? 5 hours ago, he said the Brent crude price futures was at 86.13, okay? What's it at? What's it at right now? So, Brent is currently at 99.36. See how quickly it fluctuates, right? See how, like, just because it went down a little bit because of something that Donald Trump said or Axios reported, right? Or Stephen Chung put out there, like it really reacts pretty quickly when they realize that's bullshit. And then when they hear the bombs and explosions continue to go off, it's like, okay, all right, yeah, let's reverse that. I think maybe we jumped the gun on that one a little bit too quickly. But yeah, so I don't know, how long's that been? 5 hours or so? I'm going to say I'll give him 6 hours since, YouTube probably doesn't update, but on the hour on those videos. So in 6 hours, it's gone up another, 15? What was it at in his video? Let's see here. Yeah, 86. So from 86 to 90, so another $13. Another 13 it went up in the 5 hours since he made that video, after people are reacting obviously to what took place last night and the unlikely nature of us getting to some peace deal. But again, Benny Johnson has some inside information, so we got to hear this inside information apparently, and you guys are going to get a kick out of the information that he uses to say that there's a peace deal getting done here, which he says on the bottom. It says because the airspace over Camp David's been locked down. What?
Reminder that $65 a barrel equals $2 gasoline in the vast majority of states in America, and so this is exactly where you want things to be headed. You can see here.
Yep, that's a good graph. You want it all the way up to basically 120, and then all the way down, and then all the way back up, and then all the way and up and then down, and then up and then down. You want a graph looking just like that. That shows me stability. That's what that shows me. That is a definite graph of stability right there, right? And then he's talking about it, and he catches it here at the downfall. I'm sorry, I'm just in the way where he's looking at it, but you can see just where I was here at 92.81, right? And it's even gone up since then. So he's trying to talk about, which, without recognizing the clear instability this is showing and the clear fucking erratic nature of the market since Donald Trump has undertaken, these military actions all over the world in this point. But, he's quite clearly trying to get you guys to look at the downturn without recognizing that it goes right the fuck back up almost every single goddamn time.
Brent,
as it has this time.
Oil charting right here, $65 a barrel. This was $2 gasoline, just December 2nd, 2025. This, no good. But it is spiking downward significantly.
Spiking downward. Jesus fuck. These fucking people are all turning into Donald Trump, right? Like their brains are now mush from years of propaganda and pushing the propaganda themselves and listening to this asshole. Like the brain, it's spiking downward. Okay there, Chief. All right.
President Trump has announced the framework for a peace deal. And now we know that there's a lot more going on. America is about to release billions of dollars worth of funds to Iranians whose delegation is in Qatar right
And I'm
now.
sorry, and you're happy about this? I'm sorry. I can almost. Did you not recall you and your entire side talking about Obama and 1.7 or 1.8 billion? Do you guys remember that talking point, or is that just we're just throwing that one away now? Is that one just shot and dead? Right? You just can't use that anymore. And that one's going to go back on the shelf. That one's just, that one's going to catch some dust for a little bit now while, everything settles. I'm just curious. Is anybody else, is he talking about this like it's a good thing now? Like we're just going to hand over billions of dollars to the Iranians? Is that something that Donald Trump said was going to happen? Or did he specifically say, as we played on the podcast the other day, that no money would ever exchange hands? Like we were so powerful. We were so fucking mighty. We had the best military, and we took out so many goddamn targets. We sunk their military, and we fucking shot the air, their fucking airplanes out of the sky. Right? We had done all that. We don't have to hand over any money to have them do what we want them to do. Of course not. But now Benny Johnson seemingly, and I've heard also from a few places, I think, that this wasn't true as well. So again, take all this with a grain of salt, as you guys well know when you hear anything on Benny Johnson's show. But
And while the skirmishing is still going on social media, right? The Mojtaba Khomeini is popping off from whatever bunker or, I don't know, cardboard holding cell that he's in. Nobody knows about this guy. Nobody's ever seen him. It seems that everything is progressing.
Nobody's ever seen him. Nobody's ever laid eyes on this guy, ever. Benny hasn't, but he thinks nobody else on the planet has it either.
Quite nicely. And actually, we have more information that may show that things are
This is his big scoop, guys. Okay, you guys ready for this? This is Benny Johnson's big inside scoop. This is what's telling him that a peace deal is right around the corner, going to happen tomorrow, as a matter of fact. He even knows where it's going to happen, right? And listen to the information that he's using now to draw a straight line from airspace closed over Camp David to the Iranian delegation must be flying to America to sign a peace deal. Listen to this bullshit.
To happen in America. Let's go ahead and look here. This was from last night. Presidential level flight restrictions are now in place over Camp David on Wednesday morning. Camp David, not often used by the president. Camp David out in the middle of rural Maryland as the famous presidential retreat, but also a place where presidents sign peace agreements and have signed peace agreements for a very long time. The Camp David Accords, for instance, is a historic location where there was Arab peace created. It worked out great in 1978. That was definitely long lasting. Well done, Jimmy Carter. But anyway, the point is that Camp David is a historic location. Donald Trump does not use it often. This is a TFR, a temporary flight.
Things, let me see here, just to kind of cut him off. Let me throw this on your screen because there's a couple things being reported. Was it this one? Yeah, I think it was this one. Let me throw this on your screen here. Just to kind of, I just typed in Trump Camp David to see if there was any more reporting on this. It says, this is by HQ headquarters. It says Trump falls asleep at Memorial Day event, which we'll take a look at. Trump goes to Walter Reed for a second annual checkup in 7 months, which I believe Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump were in the hospital on the same day at the same time at some point. And this also says tomorrow, Trump holds rare cabinet meeting at Camp David for undisclosed reasons. Just now, President Trump is preparing to convene his entire cabinet at a rare Camp David trip tomorrow. Trump very infrequently goes there. No further details were released. Trump has taken his cabinet to Camp David tomorrow. Economy and small business wins, task force and eliminate fraud highlights, foreign policy updates, the kind of list that gets read out there and then set aside because Iran is going to take over the room. The U.S. struck targets in southern Iran overnight. Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khomeini responded by threatening American military bases across the Middle East. And nuclear talks are sitting right at crunch time, with both sides still haggling over the exact language of an initial document. Rubio, speaking to reporters in India, said it could take, quote, a few days to work out the details, adding that Trump is either going to make a good deal or no deal. Fucking idiots. That line matters. It's not a threat and it's not reassurance. It's Trump keeping maximum pressure on while Rubio plays the patient diplomat abroad. The good cop, bad cop routine is deliberate. I don't know who this person is, but he's certainly giving them way too much goddamn credit. The only thing that might stop the meeting is weather. Trump flies to Camp David by helicopter, and Washington has been soaked with heavy rain, yada, 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 but the conversation happens regardless. Trump is preparing to convene his entire cabinet, so I guess that's kind of the only thing being reported there. But apparently, Benny Johnson coming to the conclusion that there's some Iranians going to be in attendance and that some deal is going to be signed. Trump is convening the full cabinet. This is from Clash Report on Wednesday, with Iran expected to dominate the agenda, including recent U.S. strikes, ongoing ceasefire negotiations, the nuclear deal, the Strait of Hormuz disruptions. Let's see. As Iran tensions fly, meetings could change due to bad weather. Trump typically flies to Camp David via helicopter, but yada, yada, yada about the weather. That's about all I could see as far as that's concerned. Hit boats and missile sites. That's talking about last night as well. Camp David to meet his cabinet. That's CBS reporting. So, yeah, it seems like that's about it. And just to talk about different things with his cabinet as far as that's concerned, but Benny Johnson trying to get you to believe that some, substantial peace deal is going to be signed. But I think that's enough of Benny Johnson for one day. Hold on. I'll let him go through this bullshit. I'll let him tell you that the airspace is closed for several hours. So somehow that leads him to believe that there's a peace deal and an announcement. He said it was announced. Let's not forget that. He said it was announced, not that, hey, I'm going to use this fucking reporting about closed airspace and Trump going to Camp David to say that there's some deal being reached at all.
Flight restriction is what that calls for, stands for. And it is for Wednesday morning for VIP movement.
Yes, we just found out because he's taken his cabinet to Camp David to talk about the economy, the strikes last night, how bad he's getting fucking ass fucked by the Iranians in this entire thing. He's going to talk about all of those. So, you might want to be in attendance. We know that's typically on your agenda anyway. But this also brought up, let me throw this on the screen. Because this was, what's his name? Kevin Hassett talking about the economy. I couldn't believe this motherfucker. Again, the last time that it was on, he said something similar as well. But basically recognizing the fact that all of us are now spending more on everything and trying to talk about how that's a good thing, right? Like, it's a big boost for the economy that everybody's spending double on everything at this point in time. But I couldn't believe that he continued to say this shit, in front of a camera with a microphone in front of his face. It's pretty crazy. He says, the American people I've seen spending more money at the gas stations, but they're also spending more money on everything else, which means they're still very, very optimistic about the state of the economy. No, it just means they're forced to buy the things that are necessary for daily life. They're forced to pay double. They're forced to pay triple and more in some cases, in a lot of cases. That doesn't mean they're very optimistic about the economy. Quite the contrary. They're very fucking disillusioned about the state of the economy. They're very worried about the state of the economy, as we talked about last night in the Zoom. A lot of people feeling the fucking pinch. A lot of people are worried about, surprise things coming up, whether it's a tree needing to be cut down around your property, whether it's a medical emergency, or your mom falls and you have to take care of her and you can't go to work for a few days. What do you do about the income that you can't get, or the income that you won't get from those days that you had to take off, the vacation days that you had to take? Right? I mean, any circumstance that any number of daily, that you guys go through on a daily basis, right? Any surprise that happens, you catch a flat tire, somebody fucking rear ends you, whatever it may be, you need to take care of some things before the insurance can cover it, if you're lucky enough to have insurance at all. Like, those things can pop up that are really putting people that are living on a fucking, on a knife's edge, on a very fine line right now, on a very fucking limited budget. Any one of those things that pop up can really put you out of fucking business, right? Can really throw you for a loop and put you in the hole. So again, this asshole is saying that it's a good thing that you guys are spending, double, triple, and quadruple, if not more, on daily, daily items that you need for your daily life is fucking asinine. But here he is, Kevin Hassett, saying exactly that.
And the thing that I've seen when I look at credit card data and other things that I can get for the private sector is that while people have been spending more money at gas stations, they've been spending more money on everything else, which means that they're still very, very optimistic about the state of the economy. And they should be. If you look at GDP right now, it's north of 4%. And so despite this disruption, all the momentum that we built with the big, beautiful bill and AI and everything else is really, what the main economic story of the U.S. is.
Jesus Christ. Again, the fucking pretzeling that has to be done to get people to actually think for some quick split second that the economy is doing well, and somehow, the stock market numbers are reflected in their daily lives is asinine. Right, is fucking asinine. But it's kind of falls in line with this administration when you see shit like this on Memorial Day. Donald Trump basically bragging without bragging about the fact that there's not many Donalds that you're going to see that have served in the armed forces. Basically talking about his ability to get deferments, to not have to serve this country, to get out of serving this country. Again, just one of the more fucking disgusting things that he continues to do in demeaning and degrading our U.S. service military members, past and present. Again, whether it's talking about John McCain, talking about POWs, calling them suckers and losers, not showing up to the cemetery because he doesn't want to get his fucking, his toupee wet. Here he is talking about the 400,000 souls resting on these grounds. And then at the end of it is talking about the names that are in place, mentions the name Donalds, and then goes on to say, well, not too many. Basically, again, a backhanded way of saying, these guys are idiots. They served, they died. I was smart enough to get deferments and to get my ass out of serving. So again, anybody that served in our armed forces, and anybody obviously that we salute on this Memorial Day weekend and beyond, I can only imagine how much this frustrates you and infuriates you. But if you haven't heard it, here it is. And sorry that the sound is low again. This is the Twitter shithole. So you can turn it up for this.
Scripture tells us precious is the sight of the Lord, is the death of his faithful servants. 400,000 souls rest on these grounds, these beautiful grounds, in the sacred soil, which is first consecrated in the hours of America's greatest division to be eternal symbol of national unity. It cannot be by chance alone that the very first service member laid to rest here in this place of supreme sacrifice was a Union soldier by the name of Private Christman, Private William Henry Christman of Pennsylvania, who died as 19 years old. He was a great young man, they say. Beside him are more than 18,000 other young men named William, over 20,000 named John, over 13,000 named James, joined over time by Isaac, Elijah, Earls, Hanks, Helens, Wands, Margarets, Marius, Donalds, not too many, and others whose names tell the true story of America.
So he went off script, right? His name's not fucking anywhere near that whatsoever, but he decides to go off script and say his own name, Donalds, and then to ad-lib even further to say not too many with a fucking chuckle. Right? I mean, the disrespect, the fact that what this guy has said about U.S. service members in the past, the fact that he's even afforded the ability, afforded the right, the honor to speak at a fucking, memorial like this is a slap in the face. Is enough of a slap in the face to begin with. But the fact that he's going to go on there and basically brag again about the fact that he was, so rich and so powerful and so well connected that he was able to lie about bone spurs and lie about deferments and get out of this. And I know that's not, what he said, but that is what he said. Right. That's what he was getting across. That's exactly what the fuck he stated without stating as much. So, again, it doesn't take much to read between the lines as far as that's concerned. But, that wasn't the only embarrassing moment as well. There was another point in time where I think he was falling asleep. Let me see. There was another one here as well. Yeah, there's this one right here. I'll throw this one on. This is basically where he's fucking snoozing in the background once again.
Flowers and ribbons on some 20,000 graves. They were soldiers.
Yep, trying to keep himself awake. Yeah, swing my head.
Off to battle, they sang the lines of the hymn.
So again, there's another one. I'm not sure if there's on here, but he's swaying back and forth. He's standing next to, I think it's Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth. And I'm assuming it's the national anthem playing. And he's basically just, he's trying to catch his balance. And the other two are staying, but he's kind of getting thrown around either by the wind or by the fact that he just can't fucking stay still. I don't know if it was on this one. But it should be easily found by you guys if you look that one up as well. I won't bore you, subject you to too much fucking Donald Trump on Memorial Day, but I just wanted to show you those two accounts there where Trump just again not recognizing the disrespect, not recognizing the discredit he does to all of the people that did take the oath to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and him up there just laughing about the fact, ad-libbing about the fact that his name is up there maybe a few times, but it certainly ain't from him. That's what he wanted you to know. And again, speaking about Donald Trump's trip and him kind of recognizing strongmen and autocrats and dictators, we definitely called this one, right? So it wasn't too long after his meeting with Xi Jinping that he was questioned about Taiwan, that he was questioned about this, this ammo deal, this, the arms deal to Taiwan. And we told you just from the way he answered those questions that this was going to be in question. This wasn't going to happen. Okay. He was going to try to appease Xi Jinping. He was going to try to send some signal, or again, they might be even more frightened than they're led on than the reporting suggests about the U.S. stockpiles. So again, we're going to have to ignore the fact that we have a dead person asking this question. Unfortunately, just disregard the fact that people are allowed to stay in power for so long that they could actually be dead and still ask questions in committee hearings and shit. We just want to, just push past that fact. I'm sorry that a corpse is now, taking over your screen asking a question, but I think it is a relevant answer that we need to play. And again, this is talking about the Navy admitting that Iran burned U.S. weapons stockpiles in one regard, and also that the United States here is reneging and going against a $14 billion Taiwan arms sale. Right after our president met with the president of China, Xi Jinping, who again has been for years threatening action against Taiwan. And for generations in this country, it's been policy to not listen to the president of fucking China when talking about our help, assistance, military aid towards Taiwan. But again, Donald Trump said that's been far too long in the making, and he was going to make a decision on the arms sales. It seems like the decision has been made. Here's, again, Mitch McConnell's corpse asking Hung Kao about that specific thing. So listen to this response.
To buy arms from us. And all of a sudden there's a pause. What are you hearing from the Taiwanese about the pause?
Chairman, I have not heard, I have not spoken to the Taiwanese. However, we have done some foreign military sales to them. And it's just right now we're doing a pause in order to make sure we have the munitions we need for Epic Fury, which we have plenty, but we're just making sure we have everything. But
we're just making sure that we have enough, but we have plenty. There's no reason to be alarmed. There's no reason to be even don't even mention that I said that. Just forget that I said that. But we're not going to send that $14 billion in arms sales to Taiwan because we're very worried about the stockpiles here. But don't worry, it has nothing to do with the fact that our president just met with Xi Jinping over there in China and probably promised him this exact thing. So kind of two admissions here in one. But if you look back, this is what I noticed. You see that thing on Mitch McConnell's hand? How long is it before we see Donald Trump wearing one of these? Because I'm assuming this is to cover up the bruising, right? You can see the bruising on Mitch McConnell's hand. I'm sure that goes, pretty deep into his the upper part of his hand there. So I don't know if that's clearly not doing anything for stability, that little fucking piece of cloth. So again, just assuming that's to cover up the bruising on his hands is kind of making me question how long it's going to be before Donald Trump's wearing these specific things. Hey, where'd Mitch get those things? I need those things. But again, this is Hung Kao stuttering and stammering over his answer because he knows how bad this is.
In order to make sure we have the munitions we need for Epic Fury, which we have plenty, but we're just making sure we have everything. But then the foreign military sales will continue when the administration deems necessary.
Yeah, we got plenty. Don't worry, we got plenty, but we can't do that one right at this second. We're also taking, missile batteries out of South Korea, and we've told, other people, European partners, that they can't have their weapons either. But don't worry, don't worry about that. We're at a really good point in place right now. We have everything that we need. But also we're robbing Peter to pay Paul and stealing everybody's fucking arms that we have deals with to make sure that we can have at least some percentage of our stockpiles remaining. But also don't look at that portion of this. You know what I mean? It's like you can tell the stammering and stuttering in this. He doesn't like the answer that he has to give, and he doesn't like the position that he's been thrust into here by Donald Trump's decision to, again, renege on the Taiwan arms sale. Again, $14 billion at a time. where the president just came back from China, was talking about it was going to be his decision to make that. We called it here on this show, as many shows I'm sure did, called it correctly, that was going to be something, a signal sent to Xi Jinping to kind of to signal again Donald Trump's willingness to work with dictators, autocrats, and strong men around the world. Let's see, was there anything else? Yeah, let's dive into this real quick, because talking about autocrats, strong men, and dictators around the world, I think we need to bring up obviously the uptick in rhetoric here that has been seen by Vladimir Putin and Russia. Obviously, we talked about just a couple days ago the strikes, the heavy strikes inside of Kyiv. And obviously the devastation and destruction that came from that. Well, he's now threatening more escalation, trying to, again, take away from the fact that his military on the battlefield has been struggling severely. Not only that, but his air defenses has been penetrated daily by the Ukrainian armed forces, by the Ukrainian drones, and the medium and long range strikes that they've been able to, to put into action, to put into play recently. So again, Vladimir Putin trying to do anything he possibly can. We talked about the strike down in Luhansk that he was trying to utilize for his propaganda benefits. A lot of red flags, a lot of questions coming from that as well. First and foremost, why Vladimir Putin would speak up against that, but not all of the strikes that we saw inside of Moscow more recently. Not only that, but the level of destruction seen to that is a lot more than we've seen recently, or by the drone that they said would have struck that. So again, it looks more along the lines of what we're seeing inside of Ukraine from the Russian strikes. You've seen a lot of apartment buildings, a lot of complexes that are kind of just split right down the center. So that was kind of what we were seeing from there. There was a lot of discrepancies and people calling out the lack of ambulances on the scene, the lack of kind of action from the firefighters that were supposedly sifting through the rubble. A lot of them just kind of sitting around, not doing much. So again, a lot of red flags, a lot of reasons to be skeptical of the Russian reporting as far as that's concerned, not to mention that it's in Ukrainian territory, no military benefit whatsoever for the Ukrainians, not taking into account the ability the Russians have to spoof and to jam drones. Is also another possibility. Again, I'm not sure if there's been more insight or more information to come out since then, but again, just going off of what I know so far. But this is from the Jerusalem Post. Russia has urged all nations with embassies in Kyiv to evacuate personnel after announcing that it had planned to launch systematic strikes on, quote, decision-making centers in Ukraine. Marco Rubio also talking about how he was made aware of a memo that went out basically to all of the embassies in the area, stipulating basically the same thing. And Marco Rubio had no pushback, no pressure to put on the Russians. I think I do have his clip, or one of them might have his clip in the upcoming videos that I have. I forget at this point, or was it this one? It might be in this one as well. Anyway, but we could talk about Marco Rubio not. Yeah, here it is right here. Here it is right here. I knew I had it somewhere. But this is also talking about the escalatory aspects of Vladimir Putin's rhetoric, and obviously Lavrov's rhetoric. It says, like Putin's two nuclear annihilation threats in the past 2 weeks, everyone now ignores the old dictator from Jay in Kyiv. Russia wants a responsible U.S. response to its decision to attack Kyiv, IRA. So let's see here. It also goes on. This is from Medvedev. The EU said it will maintain its diplomatic presence in Kyiv unchanged despite Russia's warnings. Well, apparently they've got diplomats to spare and need to trim the headcount. Again, threatening responses, threatening escalation. And this is where Marco Rubio was questioned about this. This is posted by Meanwhile in Ukraine. It says, Russia threatened Kyiv. Rubio gave it a wet noodle diplomacy response. Lavrov just told him Russia was launching systematic strikes on Kyiv linked to military sites and decision-making centers. And Rubio's answers was a fog machine, continued to escalate, yada, 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 with a big strike coming one way, the biggest strike in response. He talks about how Russia chooses this war is the response by Meanwhile in Ukraine. Says Ukraine does not choose to be attacked. And then it goes on to quote Marco Rubio here, war must end means nothing if you cannot name the side that keeps choosing it. So again, here's Marco.
Well, they sent the notice to all the embassies.
Shut up. There's Marco Rubio's wet noodle response to the ongoing threats of escalation by Vladimir Putin, by Lavrov, by Medvedev. So again, check out this bullshit, no pressure response by this piece of shit.
Well, they sent a notice to all the embassies, and I think he was just calling to personally tell me. They told all the embassies to Kyiv's going to be a very dangerous place. Kyiv's been a very dangerous.
So I know it's difficult to hear, not only because Twitter's a shithole, but also because he's on an airplane. But basically saying that he's aware of the memos that went out to the different embassies, basically stating that Kyiv's going to become a very dangerous place, as Marco Rubio's put it. So he's basically just making the reporters aware that he was basically, up to speed on that memo and the threats made by Russia. And you'd think after that would come a very severe response, a very, very direct line of pressure by a U.S. administration official to the Russians on whether or not they should stop this or think twice about doing this, or else the United States is going to get involved. The United States is going to send more weapons, ammunition, tanks, aircraft to Ukraine, like anything at this point would be good in retaliation, in response to this. But again, this is showing Vladimir Putin that the United States is just going to let him do whatever he wants to do. He talks about how there's no negotiations set up. There's no really next talks in order. He's just, we're here to help if you want us to help. If not, we're going to sit here and fucking coddle our balls with our dick in our hands, watch, Kyiv get struck and watch Ukraine get struck on a nightly basis without doing anything.
Place now for a number of years. Look, the danger in all of these wars as they continue and they go on is that they always have the threat of escalation, of spreading into something new.
So he says basically the threat, the threat to all these wars is that they continue to go on, right? The threat of escalation, which is again why we need to continuously put pressure on the side that enacted this war, the side that started this war, and continues to perpetrate this war, as opposed to just sitting here with our thumb in our bum doing absolutely fucking nothing and not giving any response whatsoever when they basically threaten to annihilate Kyiv once again.
To him yesterday about that and a couple other topics, and obviously that Putin had asked him to call me to relay the message directly to the president, which I did, but obviously we had already seen the notice sent out to all the diplomatic facilities, and I said, right now there's no active scheduled negotiations ongoing with Ukraine, but the U.S.
So right now there is no active negotiations scheduled between us and Ukraine or us and Russia. But again, he goes on to say that we're here to help. We're here to help. If anybody wants us to help, just ask, right? But meanwhile, he's sitting there in a position to help, in a position to get the position of the threats of the United States across to Vladimir Putin. He's in a very direct position to do this. He's not doing it.
is always prepared to play a constructive and helpful role if that opportunity presents itself.
What about these big Russian strikes in Kyiv? Some of the biggest, yeah.
Well, this is what happens with these wars. I mean, they just continue to escalate. There's a big strike coming one way, a bigger strike coming back.
Just fucking pussy ass bitch bullshit from this guy. So he's asked once again about the escalatory threats by Russia, by Vladimir Putin against Kyiv. And he says, well, this is, basically what war is. One side attacks the other side attacks in retaliation. Escalation happens. What are you going to do, basically, type of bullshit. No. You are supposed to be doing something. Again, the Budapest Memorandum stated that we were going to continue to do something. Meanwhile, you continue to hold up to 400 million. You continue to step in the way of fucking actively helping Ukraine defeat Russia, as we should be doing in this. But no, he just sits here, another wasted opportunity to put pressure, any amount of pressure whatsoever on Vladimir Putin, per the rhetoric that he's now stating, using his nuclear-capable fucking missiles, right? Just the empty shell this time, but threatening basically next time it might not be the empty shell, but no response here from the United States delegation.
And that's how these things unravel and keep going. And it's why the war needs to come to an end. Look, every time you see these big strikes from one side or the other, it's a reminder of why this is a terrible war that's now gone on longer.
A terrible war started by who, you dickhead? A terrible war started by who? Who continues to thrust their people into a sovereign nation to conduct this war? Please, can you just elaborate on that one little fucking detail? It might lead you to the conclusion on which side you should be on in this fight. But no, obviously he doesn't get it. He goes on to just, again, do more propaganda and basically send a signal to Putin like, yeah, you know what? We'll be here. You want to just continue sending fucking nuclear capable missiles into Kyiv? We're here, I guess. But there's a little more stemming from this as well. Preston Stewart kind of gave us an update on what is taking place and kind of more on Vladimir Putin's rhetoric, what we're likely to see, what's to come. So I figured if we could dive into a couple minutes of this, it might give us some more insight, more detail as to, what's to come, basically. So if you could hit that like button, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all of the supporters of Ukraine that watch this show for any updates, highlights, information on what's taking place in this war. Very much appreciated. We're just moments away, I believe, from our second NAFO 69 Sniffing Brigade Brigade campaign to raise funds to get trucks, vehicles, and any help and assistance toward the front lines, to the military on the front lines here in Ukraine. So again, hopefully we can announce that in the upcoming shows and our next shows to come. So we just try to do anything we possibly can. Hopefully we're going to be setting up a conversation, thanks to our good friend Tom, with Marta over at the Mr. Dobra, which would be a fantastic organization to highlight and promote. Again, we're just trying to use this platform in the best way possible, to be of as much assistance as humanly possible, to wield this community in the best way humanly possible that we possibly can. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Thank you so much for hitting that like button, for dealing with my nonsense and my bullshittery. So subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for 20K. We're on to 25K. Next stop, let's go. So again, this is Preston Stewart, just giving us a little update on obviously Vladimir Putin's rhetoric and what we are likely to see come from that. So here we go. Appreciate you guys.
Russia appears to be stalling on the battlefield, so in turn, they're threatening to level Kyiv. Seriously, new Russian warning just a few hours ago saying all foreigners need to leave because it is about to get nasty. And the reason for this sudden outburst is that Russia's having a hard time advancing on the battlefield. I mean, we are watching Ukraine's plan come together in real time, and it appears to be working. First, they're destroying Russian air defenses. Second, they're hammering Russian logistics deep behind the front lines. And third, they're inflicting heavy losses at the front, with Russian forces advancing slower and at a higher cost than ever before. So let's get into it with some new footage from the last 24
So again,
hours.
he's 100% right, which is why you can see the reason in which Vladimir Putin would be so desperate to change not only the headlines, but also the momentum if he can. And obviously, if he can fake the world into believing that, you know, the next time the Oreshniks come into Kyiv, they're going to be having nuclear warheads attached, that maybe it's going to force, the EU or NATO or Ukraine in itself to the negotiating table. Like, he's hoping some drastic action comes from this. Meanwhile, he's cried wolf over and over and over and over again. There's been red lines with tanks. There's been red lines with F-16s. There's been red lines with Starlink. There's been red lines with fucking ammunition and weaponry. There's been red line after red line after red line that Vladimir Putin has been fucking shown to be, a sheep in wolf's clothing, as it were, with his threats that he's put out there to the world. But again, this is to suggest that this is a lot more about the stalemate and the lack of successes that the Russian military is seeing on the battlefield, than anything else that Vladimir Putin is espousing that these attacks are about.
Showing how this is all coming together. Now, stick around to the end of today's video. We've got an update on the recent fundraiser. We're more than a third of the way there, a $35,000 goal in the first 24 hours, because you all apparently are crazy. So we'll let you know where that stands. But incredible.
Are they sending a dog to the front lines? Are they raising money for a dog, for a cute dog? And of course, I'm kidding. Of course, the money's being raised for the robotic ground drone. I kid, but it is a pretty cute dog that's utilizing that current drone.
Full effort so far. Starting out with a new article in the Institute for the Study of War, just came out a few hours ago. It'll be linked in the description below. They said, quote, open data on Russia's battlefield performance indicates that the character of the war is shifting in favor of Ukrainian forces.
So the headline states, Ukraine's intermediate range strike campaign and new mechanized attacks herald the start of a new phase of the war. And I would say a new phase of war in general. Right. And I know a lot of this, kind of sounds hyperbolic, but, when you're stating that war is changing on a daily basis and Ukraine themselves are changing what war is on a daily basis is not a stretch. It is not a stretch whatsoever, which is why you see the need from militaries all around the world to kind of get involved so that they're not left behind when inevitably, warfare changes to an all drone, all mechanized, all robotic type of system. Right.
At least for now. Russian forces...
We'll say majority, not all.
Rates of advance are stagnating, while Ukrainian forces are employing novel tactics and operational concepts in efforts to break out of positional warfare. It remains too early to tell whether Ukrainian forces will successfully restore maneuver to the battlefield, however. And we've talked about this in recent videos. Russia is doing a lot of the same. Very little has changed in the last few months at least. You could probably go back a year plus. I mean, we're seeing minor innovations in technology and tactics around the usage of drones, but we are still seeing the Russian infiltration tactics. They're still charging headlong across open terrain, and they're still using their Shaheds and missiles to target facilities well behind the front that, look, a lot of those strikes are hitting home, but clearly they're not having a major impact on the battlefield. Conversely, we are seeing Ukraine shift their tactics, and it's playing out right in front of us on camera each day. The first step of that is the destruction or suppression of Russian air defense. They said in the ISW report, quote, Ukraine has been conducting a coherent campaign to suppress and destroy Russian air defenses since late 2025 in order to shape the battlefield as part of more sophisticated campaign planning. And we are seeing this like almost every day. Madhyar Birds just released a video today saying that they have now destroyed their 23 Russian air defense assets so far this month. One a day, almost one a day. That is unsustainable for Russia, and we are seeing how this plays out. This footage released by the Unmanned Systems Forces say that just over the course of the last 24 hours, they hit an S-300 air defense system. They hit a 9S-19 Ginger radar, railway tanks with fuel, MTZ warehouse, UAV control point, over and over and over and over again. But the focus—
And again, these are all Ukrainian strikes on Russian infrastructure and Russian air defenses, which again shows you the continued success that they have to get in and around the air defenses to take out their capabilities in general.
There that I want you to highlight, or that I want to highlight, is the air defense assets. Limited quantity, already not enough of those to go across Russia. Every one of those that goes down opens up more areas for Ukrainian drones to fly through and strike Russian targets further and further from the front. That leads us to number two of three in this three-tiered plan, the Ukrainian middle strike campaign. ISW says, quote, Ukraine significantly intensified its intermediate range strike campaign against dynamic targets in spring 2026 in order to degrade Russian logistics at operational depths. Every single day we are seeing this. And we're playing some footage right now just released by the 1st National Guard Corps Azov of strikes in the Mariupol region in the south. This is nonstop. You know, the first one came out a couple weeks ago, I think, around Donetsk City, and now it's been daily strikes deep behind the front lines. You know, this one you're talking about 100 plus kilometers behind the front, striking Russian logistics, military infrastructure in broad daylight. Azov in this footage said, quote, the territory of Ukraine should be free from Russian troops. The most reliable way to achieve this is to move the sanitary zone for enemy logistics closer to Russia itself and occupied Crimea. Pilots of the 1st National Guard Corps Azov are already carrying out tasks to hit tankers near the Russian border. The video shows combat operations on the Mariupol Tangarog and Mariupol Valnovka highways. Butchered those. They say there will be no more safe Azov region for the occupiers. Deep State Map in their analysis on these strikes said, quote, the Russian logistics should suffer, be burned and destroyed, which will significantly affect the battlefield. However, it's important.
And again, this is something we've seen, a consistent push by the Ukrainians and trying to push that, you know, I forget what term he just utilized there in the video, but basically that safe zone, right? They want to push that buffer zone where, you know, the Russians have a feeling of safety, right? We talked about, you know, them kind of, well, I think they were 100 kilometers behind the front and they were doing, you know, repairs on the helicopter in broad daylight out in the field. Turned out to be a wrong fucking move, right? So again, they want to make it so that the Russians feel the pain and that they're not comfortable and that they're kind of watching in the skies all the time, further and further back, making it more difficult for the front to get resupplied, right? Less and less vehicles getting through, less and less ammunition, less and less people. All of that is going to have effect. Water, food, fuel, ammunition, all of that. If less and less of it can get to the front line, or if it's more difficult for it to get to the front line, it takes longer. Like even that could have a drastic impact on the morale, you know, the way that they could be utilized, how much energy they have to expend on the front. You know, obviously if they don't have ammunition, they're pretty fucking, you know, well dead in the trench. You know what I mean? So again, it's kind of a consistent theme that we've seen by the Ukrainians and trying to push that buffer zone back with drones, and Magyar's Birds here doing a pretty good job. We're talking about here in the Mariupol region, which we talked about on the last show. Was it last show or the show before? The Mariupol to Melitopol highway, and how that's basically been shut off to civilian use by the Russians, and we saw the destruction in the fuel trucks that were being targeted. Obviously, all of that's going to have an impact on the front, and you know, the more that they can strike those targets, and the more consistently they can get around the air defenses and make it difficult for the front to get resupplied on the entirety of the front. Obviously, the more success the Ukrainians will see. So, very, very smart move, very smart maneuver, and it looks like it's being undertaken and being initiated pretty successfully.
To understand that this will not create an absolute catastrophe for the enemy, because logistics is a process of maneuvering and calculations which the enemy will carry out. And it's even more important to understand that this direction is just gaining momentum. It requires time, resources, and of course, the desire of the state to implement all these desired changes. Now, a quick note on where these strikes are taking place to give you an idea. It's along this road. We've got Mariupol in the south down here along the Sea of Azov. So we'll shift over to a different map. I think this one does a better job of showing the roads. They're hitting these roads leading along the Sea of Azov. So you've got red as the occupied Russian occupied territory of Ukraine. And what they're doing is hammering logistics leading from essentially Rostov here in Russia across.
So you can see just kind of above my finger here where Mariupol is in that general direction. And then if you follow that down, you can see where Melitopol is. So basically that highway and, several highways, in and around that are the ones that we're talking about in this case right there, in case, it's not more detailed. It's not more obvious to what he's showing here.
This land bridge down into Crimea. So now with Ukrainian drones able to strike at this depth in daylight hours without much resistance, it shuts down Russia's ability to move things behind the line and reinforce different areas of the front or keep areas like Kherson, Zaporizhia, or Crimea supplied. I mean, we've seen this in recent days. There's been a number of Russian mill bloggers complaining of fuel shortages in Mariupol, certainly in Crimea. We had a lot of Russian mill bloggers continuing to complain that there's a lack of air defense all along this road. We'll play some of the footage of some of these vehicles getting hit.
Probably won't have time, but since he's talking about the Zaporizhia front as well, I probably won't have time to get into too much of this. I might just be able to throw the link in the chat for you guys in case you guys want to see this. But Kaylin Robinson did put out a new video here talking about the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and basically the fight has been going on around that and the danger posed if the Russians were ever to get their hands fully on that as well. So obviously the necessity for the Zaporizhia front, and we talked about the three-pronged attack that the Russians were trying on the Sea of Azov and how the Ukrainians have been seeing success in and around Stepnorisk and pushing that back, which is good to see in that area. But just in case, let me throw this. I'll throw this link in the chat for you guys. Copy, paste, put in the chat, because I don't know if I'm going to save myself enough time to get through enough of that. But just in case, there it is in the chat for you guys. But like I said, he just reminded me of the Zaporizhia front, reminded me of that video. So let me see. We'll go through another minute of this. Might be able to get through a couple minutes of it, but not enough.
I mean, it's all across. We're seeing a number of strikes play out day in and day out. And the mill bloggers are getting frustrated, saying, where are the air defense assets? They're not there because a lot of those are being destroyed. But there's also apparently no mobile counter drone teams.
This is the footage that we were showing on the podcast the other day, on the live stream the other day, of the the fuel vehicles that were just strewn on the side of the road. That showing the targets that the Ukrainians were going after.
Are closer to the front or somewhere and not being utilized along this highway. There's not even any nets being put up quite yet. So it's worth noting that as we're watching this play out, this is likely a short-term advantage for Ukraine. This reminds me very much of when HIMARS entered the fight early in the war. There was probably a 3 to 5 month period of time where the HIMARS just rained down devastation across Russian formations. They weren't ready. They were not expecting precision, very lethal strikes at that distance. Eventually, they adapted and they moved their operational command a little bit further back outside the range of HIMARS. And we really saw, if you think about it, it's been a while since there's been like a massive HIMARS strike, or at least a lot.
Right. So, and like he said before, I don't think it's necessarily, their objective. I'm sure to some degree it is, but whether or not that's even remotely possible to cut off all logistics, I'm sure in some specific areas it's possible. But for, on the wider front, it's going to be so that you can hamper logistics, make it more difficult, make less be able to get through, or make the route more difficult, whatever it may be, make it so that less stuff gets to the front, less people feel less safe the closer they get to the front. So it shouldn't be, just within a 10 or 15 mile radius when you get to the front that you should feel on edge for the Russians. It should be, hundreds, if not thousands of miles within enemy territory and your own territory that you should feel, not safe, basically, is what they're trying to establish. But let me see if I can go into at least a couple minutes of this before I get you guys out of here, because I think this was very well done as well. This was, again, like I said, the Kaylin Robertson video. Something is seriously wrong at Europe's biggest nuclear power station. And I think because we were talking about Stepnorisk, the successes in and around that Ukraine was seeing in and around there, and obviously the danger posed by the Russians getting closer to Zaporizhia, if they were able to break that front, what it would pose. I think this is a good kind of refresher on kind of, what's at stake, right? So just to play a couple minutes of this, and then I'll get you guys out of here for the day. I really do appreciate you guys sticking with me, hitting that like button, subscribe subscribing to the channel, donating in the chat, sending a Venmo, hitting the Patreon, signing up for a YouTube membership, all of the good things that you can do to help independent media, specifically this independent media, would be greatly appreciated. So like I said, sorry to kind of skip around a lot, but to give credit where credit is due. Here's Kaylin's newest video that I saw. And again, something is seriously wrong at Europe's biggest nuclear power station. Gives a little bit of a history as to what was taking place there. And again, obviously, if we get into enough, what is the threat posed by letting the Russians get towards that again?
We're racing towards the closest point to Europe's biggest nuclear reactor. And right now, something's going deeply wrong at the plant sitting right on the front line of this war.
Europe's largest nuclear plant is on edge tonight. It remains under Russian control.
To film it, you gotta sprint through open ground before a Russian drone sees you from the sky. While filming this report, we hear that Russian drones are now being launched from inside the power station. That means the risk here is rising dramatically. The risk of radiation leak, the risk of catastrophe. And this reactor is twice the size of Chernobyl. And if something goes wrong here, the disaster won't stop in Ukraine. Six nuclear reactors on the edge of the Dnipro River. Enough electricity.
I should say, if Russia decides to utilize their ability and control over that to do something devastating, before I previously mentioned,
to power a country the size of Portugal. For decades, this was supposed to represent the future. Engineering, progress, humanity, harnessing the atom itself. Then the invasion begins. Russian
so again, it's it's basically the total control over the area that is, again, the ongoing risk here. Not to mention, obviously, the risk of what could take place if obviously a disaster were to happen at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in general. But the fact that we don't want the entirety, obviously, of that region being under that control. Right now, it's kind of on a knife's edge, as it were, between the two lines. So obviously, the dangers posed here, if in fact the Russians decide to, or in fact were allowed to take over, the totality of the area there, is what we're, talking about in kind of the dangers and the threats posed to obviously that region in general, and obviously the greater region if something disastrous were to take place.
Race towards the plant. Gunfire erupts beside the reactors. Tracer fire cuts through the night sky. Workers inside the station broadcast desperate warnings across loudspeakers. But the Russians kept coming, and for the first time in human history, a functioning nuclear power plant is seized during a full-scale war. Russian troops storm the facility, scientists detained, interrogated, and tortured. The station cut off from the outside world. Then the reactors are shut down, dormant. But dormant doesn't mean safe, because even a silent reactor has to breathe. Cooling systems must keep running. Water must keep flowing. Electricity must stay online. Because if the cooling stops, temperatures rise, pressure builds, and the radiation escapes. Then another catastrophe. The Kakhovka Dam is destroyed.
So again, you can see there in comparison to where Zaporizhzhia is. I'll play this real quick. So you can see where Zaporizhzhia is here, and then obviously where the nuclear power plant is in Russian-controlled territory there. But again, we're talking about the Zaporizhzhia front of Russians trying to use the Sea of Azov to get into Zaporizhzhia itself. So again, if they were to utilize and to take over this area, it makes it much more difficult for the Ukrainians to try to, again, utilize their ability to do some sort of self-harm or self-damage to the power plant itself, or again to take over the entirety of the area and use that as a threat, use that as kind of like a pawn over the fucking world to be like, well, we have not only control of this, but obviously look how much control around this we have. Right now, you can see, the Ukrainians doing a pretty good job in and around Stepnorizhsk of making sure that the Russians aren't able to utilize the Sea of Azov to get into Zaporizhzhia itself. But obviously here you can see in comparison where the actual nuclear power plant is in Russian-occupied territory. But again, it's the infiltration of the greater area that is something that is discussed here.
Then another catastrophe. The Kakhovka Dam is destroyed. The vast reservoir feeding this entire region collapses, water levels plunge, cooling systems thrown into danger, and the risk keeps growing. Power lines fail again and again, emergency generators activated repeatedly, every blackout bringing the plant closer to disaster. And if something finally breaks, the fallout won't stop at the front line. And right now, the front line is this city, right on the edge of the river, where Russian FPV drones strike every single hour. And at the very end of this shoreline is the only vantage point where you can still see what's happening across the water. And that is where we're headed right now.
So right now we're headed towards the city center, and already the drone detector has started beeping, and that means there are FPVs in the sky. And what I want to do right now is head towards the riverbank, and down there we can get a clean shot of the power station. But that also means if we can see the station, the Russians can see us, the Russians that are occupying that side of the river. So we got to be quick and we got to be fast. I wanted to drive all the way down there, but the police have literally just said that it's much more risky if you're in a vehicle because the drones can chase
Obviously, you know, seeing the geography there of the river separating them, you can basically tell how desperate and how, you know, how much of a need and necessity it is to make sure that the Russians aren't able to utilize the banks of the Sea of Azov to get, you know, around that aspect. Let me see here. You can see that's a pretty clear. I mean, there's the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We're looking at that from the, you know, from the town center, basically. And obviously you can see here in geography terms, the need for the Russians to go around. And obviously how, like I said, how important it is to make sure that the Ukrainians don't allow them to do that.
But that also means if we can see the station, the Russians can see us, the Russians that are occupying that side of the river. So we got to be quick and we got to be fast. I wanted to drive all the way down there, but the police have literally just said that it's much more risky if you're in a vehicle because the drones can chase you and hit the car, and you're less likely to be spotted if you're on foot. So it's going to be about a 30-minute walk through one of the most dangerous and abandoned neighborhoods in the city, but it's the only way right now to get towards the riverbank. The Russians have denied all of this. They've denied targeting civilians, but more specifically, they've denied doing any of this from the power plant. They've denied launching drones, and they've denied doing anything from that station. And I want to see if that's true. And the only way to do that is to head right down there towards the river.
So we have been walking for about 15 minutes, hiding every single time the drone detector goes off.
Nice.
Зараз давайте трошки почекаємо.
We literally have to run like this just to get a quick shot of Europe's biggest nuclear reactor. Honestly, of 3.5 years in Ukraine, covering every single frontline area, this has to be the most surreal. And the closer we get to the river, the quieter it gets. There's literally no one here. There's satellite.
I was just gonna say, absolutely nobody around. Such a shame. Such a fucking shame to see. Not a soul in sight. Obviously, the damage and destruction caused by the Russian occupation very visible.
Images that have just been released in the New York Times showing that the Russians right now, as of 2026, are desperately trying to reopen this reactor. 6 reactors online are far more dangerous than 6 reactors in a cooling phase. And the Russians have already made this power station incredibly dangerous and volatile by blowing the Novokahova Dam a few kilometers this way. That meant that the water level dropped significantly all across this region. And that reservoir was designed to cool the reactors, all 6 of them. So then they had to install pumps. And those pumps require electricity. Most of the power lines that provide that electricity, that keep the reactors cool, had been damaged or destroyed. And it's gotten so bad that 15 times the entire station has lost all power and had to rely on diesel generators. That is the last resort ever. You literally never want a nuclear power station running on diesel generators. And the last time it happened was a week ago today, 26th of April, 2026, which happened to be the 40th anniversary of Chernobyl. And all this on top of the fact that all the scientists and engineers keeping that plant going for the last few decades are basically gone. They were tortured, chased out. And so now you got a situation where you've got Europe's biggest nuclear power station without any staff, running on diesel backup generators, without a cooling system, and they're trying to get it online. This could be a catastrophe. And none of this is hypothetical. This will happen if these mistakes keep getting made. Okay, so there it is. One of the most terrifying parts about this is the fact that I can see that plant means the Russians can very likely see where I'm standing right now. And that's what the police have told me as well. Come here at your own risk. But here it is. And listen to this announcement. It's saying there's FPVs in the air right in front of the largest nuclear power plant.
So again, you can see here just a little bit of the coverage by Kaylin and the necessity of help and assistance in the Ukrainians to mitigate the damages seen there by the Russian occupation, and obviously their occupation of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and how much of a necessity it is to make sure that they don't and aren't able to establish even more territory surrounding that. So obviously it is, not as insulated. It doesn't become more insulated and protected of an area that makes it more difficult to pry out of the hands of the Russians. But obviously, as we've talked about in some recent shows, the Zaporizhzhia front, and obviously the Russians, trying to get up the Sea of Azov, and the Ukrainians having the ability to push back in and around Stepnorizhsk. Is I thought was very related to that as well. But I appreciate you guys sticking with me for today's show. Really do appreciate it. Didn't think I was going to be able to make it through the 2 hours, but it's funny how once you get going, you don't manage to, you don't really think about things. You know what I mean? So appreciate you guys. Thank you to all the mods. What do you say we get into thanking some people here on Venmo? Then we'll hop onto YouTube and see what trouble we can get ourselves into. But I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much, Geneva. First on Venmo today. Very much appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do. It says, appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. No, thank you guys. I really do appreciate you guys supporting independent media like this channel. It is very much appreciated. It is very much noticed as well. Same thing to Brian H. Thank you, B Guy. Appreciate you, my friend, for your $5 contribution. Venmo, don't go tax, Brian. I appreciate that. I second that as well, Bri. Tax sucks. Tax sucks. Thank you so much to Nancy. Oh, thank you, Nancy. Oh, I appreciate that so much, Nancy. Thanks to you and the community you've built. I love you all. Oh, thank you so much, Nancy, for everything that you've done for this community as well. And then over the last couple of days, as we like to thank people who have contributed, Brian again, Roger and Karen. Thank you so much to Jeff. Thank you so much to Allison. Thank you so much to James. Thank you so much to Yakov. Great to see you last night, my brother. Thank you so much to Victoria and Tom as well. Thank you so much to MR. Thank you so much to Nina. And then everybody, Suzanne, Tom, the altar boy, sending good vibes, obviously, his way. I got to check to see the email, see if we get any updates on Tom as well. Hopefully, Alyssa saw the message and saw what we were saying on the show. Hopefully, she got my email as well. But good vibes sent out to Tom's way as well continuously. So thank you guys, everybody on Venmo. Let's see here who was nice enough to send a contribution through the chat over there on YouTube. Thank you so much to Tony V. Let's go, Tony V. Hey, now, he says, what's going on there, brother, with the $2 contribution? Shout out to you. Thank you so much for what you do, my friend. Thank you so much, Tomas, as well. I've had $1 for 27 months already. Let's go, brother. Let's go. I appreciate that. I really do. 27 months of loyalty, 27 months of contributions here to the channel. It is respected. It is appreciated. And I can't thank you enough, Tomas. I really can't. Appreciate you. Slacks. What's up, Slacks? You fucking hummer, you. What's going on? Appreciate you. He says, love you, brother. I don't know if you know about Major Ojeda. He's been pretty sick with pneumonia. He says he's feeling better, but not 100%. We did make an announcement on the, was it the last show? They all run together at this point, but we did send our well wishes and good vibes to the Major. I wasn't sure what was going on. That's the first I've heard that it was pneumonia. So, hopefully we're hoping he gets better soon. And if there's anything that we can do, we said if there's any messages he needs to get out, any way that he has to utilize or can utilize the platform, very much we're here for him. And it'd be great to speak to him when he's back on his feet, when he's back to 100%. So Slacks, appreciate you for bringing that up. Thank you so much for reporting as well. We love you as always. Slacks in the house. Thank you, Wayno. What's going on, Wayno? 22 months. Let's go, brother. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava right back at you. Very much appreciate you and your loyalty, Wayno. Always good to see you here. What's going on, Rach? How are you? Did you see that mass Uber drivers can now unionize? I did. I heard the headline. I saw the headline. I didn't kind of dive into the details yet. But I'm curious to see what that means for, other places in the country, right? I mean, if it can get done here in Boston, if it can get done here in Massachusetts, rather, then, and they could show that it works, and they could show that, it's beneficial to the drivers themselves. Then, I'm curious what that means and what that's going to do to, to Uber drivers all over the country. So appreciate you bringing that, Rach, up. Thank you for the contribution as well. Thank you, Bri Guy. Appreciate you, my friend, Brian M. what's going on to you and your pup. Send some love to your pup for me. A little treat wouldn't hurt. A little belly rub, as always. Thank you for being a member for 10 months. Support you all the way. Well, we appreciate that, Bri Guy. We really do. Thank you so much for your loyalty, for your support, for the kindness that you show there in the chat. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Rachel, again. I used to work near that metro station in Kyiv. Like I'm telling you, saying that, seeing things that you used to live nearby and things that you've frequented before, it really gives you that cause for concern and that pause and kind of draws at your heartstrings just a little bit more when you have that direct connection. So Rachel, we feel for you. Sorry to have to report on these things. But I appreciate you for being here, and I appreciate you for sticking it out, and your passion and your aggression and your knowledge in all these subjects is appreciated, very much is. So thank you so much. And then Rachel, again, thank you. Big day for Rachel. Let's go. Lavrov is overdue for a trip to the glue factory. Yes. I will, and hopefully he turns into the glue. Hopefully that's what they're using for the glue. That would be fantastic. But I second that thought, Rachel. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for being here with your contributions. Thank you, JD, throwing that right in the swear jar, my friend. Always good to see you. Hope you had a great weekend and hope you have a better week. Good vibes to the chat. And Mod, says Carol, thank you so much for the $5 shout out, $5 contribution. Right back at you, my friend. Right back at you. Can't thank you enough for everything that you do. And then rounding out today, Just Julie 99. Let's go. Member for 21 months. I appreciate everybody that's helped to get us to this point and gotten us this far. Very much appreciate you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow for the doubleheader. Wednesdays, always Wednesdays, 2 shows on Wednesdays, obviously for the new people, anybody new that's subscribing in the chat. Every Wednesday we got 2 shows. Our first show is going to be Wednesdays at 1 p.m. during the afternoon. That's a 1-hour show here on the East Coast. And then tomorrow night, we got our 8:30 p.m. show as well. That's a 2-hour show where we kind of get more, deep into the details of what's been taking place over the last 24 hours. So make sure you hit that notification bell. That'll tell you when we go live, when we put out a short, if we put out any videos or anything like that. So make sure you're on top of all the content drops. Thank you guys so much for sending in the Venmos. Thank you guys so much for sending in the super chats. Thank you so much for heading to bostonbrian.com and grabbing a piece of merch, letting everybody know what side of history you're on, letting everybody know that you're part of the opposition, part of the resistance, and you can't stand fucking fascists. So if you want a t-shirt that clearly represents that, head over to bostonbrian.com, the Blunt Politics merch shop. That'll get you, if you're signed up at patreon.com, it gets you access to discounts on the merch shop. Also get you access to all of the Zoom meets that we have every Monday. So think about signing up there if you got the the couple bucks between the couch cushions, if it doesn't take away from any other aspect of your life. If you can go and forget about that $2 or $3, and again, like I said, not have it take any food off the table, that would be very much appreciated. So thank you guys. I'll see you tomorrow for the doubleheader. Thank you to the mods. Big salute to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Substack, the whole 9. Very much appreciate you guys. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. And I appreciate you guys for sticking here with me at Blunt Politics. My name is Brian. Hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be with you every single day except for Monday and Saturday, bringing you guys the news, the highlights, what's taking place inside of the United States, outside of the United States, with the wars, with the idiocy, with the stupidity that has to be covered, obviously, if you're indulging in politics today. So thank you so much. Hey, what's up, Mark? Oh, I see you in there, brother. Mark says, get well soon, Major, to sign Richard Ojeda's Get Well card, and he put the link in the chat. Thank you so much, Mark P. Appreciate that. Very much appreciate that from you. Thank you so much for getting people involved and letting people know where they can contribute and send Major some well wishes. So very nice of you to do that. Always good to see you. Thank you for your help and your assistance. Give a shout out to Elizabeth for me. I hope you guys are both well. Love you and appreciate you, and that goes for all the mods that I have. I've been very blessed on this platform and all the platforms to get very, very passionate, knowledgeable, educated, and cool mods. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and thank you to the chat in general. You guys, like I said, have become a community in and of itself, way more than anything that I myself have built. You guys have added way onto that community, and I thank you so much for doing that and making this at least a 20,000 subscriber channel. What do you say we get to 25 to 30? Let's not push the boundaries here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but let's see how much damage we can do. All right, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Fuck Donald Trump, Chinga la migra, Slava Ukraine, fuck Putin, fuck the rest of them, fuck them all. Who knows? I appreciate you guys. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for the doubleheader. Love and appreciate, respect, guys. Thank you. Now that sounds like a day, Chris. That sounds like a day. Have a day. Thank you, Pops. Love you, big guy. See you in a minute.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую. Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Inviting Americans from all across the country to come.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. To officially name the undisputed, when did this come out? Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. God bless the United States. Water coming here is dead. We appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. Obama. Obama. You know, he wanted to debate. If we didn't have a debate, he'd still be there. Can you imagine if we didn't have a debate? Why the hell did I debate him? We've endorsed JP, right? JD Mandel, and he's doing great. Wrong. You know what uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things.
Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps. Brian, You're drunk. You're drunk. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
What in the hell was that all about? He says rectum damn near killed him. Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants. I said mud, I said crud. You fall into some crud or something?